Welcome back, guys. Sorry for the delay. Appreciate the patience, and apologize for any of the goofy graphics you were seeing on screen. Trying to adjust the game's video settings before I got going, and it was straight up tweaking my whole computer, so that was fun for me. But either way, we're here. It's Manager Monday, as we've been doing for a few weeks now. We haven't touched this game in a couple weeks, and more to the point, we haven't touched this game at all. This is F1 Manager 23. We last played F1 Manager 22, which is obviously last year's model. Not that there's anything realistically very different, but there are some changes, some balancing things that were done, some AI, a couple other features that they added, these scenarios and race replays, which are kind of cool because you can jump into a real race that's happening this year. Like whatever happened a few weeks ago, for instance, and I could jump into that race and take over and play through something that happened. So similar to what we were doing when we started this a couple weeks ago, took over a team that needed a little bit of work. In this particular game, it was McLaren. They have really pushed their performance way down towards the bottom of the grid, and we took them over. We have a really up-and-coming, well-respected, talented young driver, Lando Norris, already signed. And he was paired with a rookie driver, Oscar Piastri, who, if you follow real F1, has been amazing and is touted as being a generational talent, possibly. And he's really been showing his stuff, and he's been holding his own against Lando. But in the game, they nerfed him from last year as a potential rookie to being a rookie, and they've nerfed him, and he kind of sucks. So he was a liability. So I signed someone a little bit different who could perform a little better right now to help the team earn more and more money so we can put more money into it and develop a little further. But like I said, our expectation, which was still kind of lofty, was to finish 7th this season. Realistically, it was about 8th when we started. But combination of some of the things we did a few weeks ago and knowing the game a little bit better, gotten us up into 6th. We're scoring points regularly. We don't have a guaranteed hold on the lead over 7th, but we're in a pretty good position right now, for sure. We're going to keep that up. So similar layout and everything should look familiar if you guys watch my stream from a couple weeks ago, or if you've played this game before. Then you know what we're looking at, kind of home base here, information about the team and where you're at, your two drivers and their ratings, little calendar, brief upcoming widget here, the next race, and the screen that takes you to preparations, and then the standings for teams, drivers, and pit stops, which is not, it is measured in real life. It's not nearly as highly regarded as it's having its own tab here would make it seem, but it is a cool mechanic because it wasn't something that was really measured or followed, and there was no way for you to really improve your performance in 22 as far as your pit stops went, and now we have the luxury of actually being able to do that. So we've already picked our target goals and things like that for the next race, which is round 11 of Season 1. I put a decent amount of hours into my own, sorry guys. But we're going to do the British Grand Prix at Silverstone.
Welcome, and come on in to the home of British motor racing. It's Silverstone, where the Formula One World Championship began back in 1950. And this historic high-speed track remains a challenge for our drivers' courage and determination to this very day.
All right, so like I was saying, Silverstone, we're us Americans. So just a reminder, again, the weekend and most race weekends, now I say most because there are some weekends where it's different, of course. Most weekends, there's 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday has 2 practice sessions where you learn information about your car, try to set up different things for that individual track, or get some data on upgrades you have installed, and come up with a good strategy for qualifying and then the race. Saturday morning begins with another final practice session, and then there's a qualifier, which is split into 3 parts. 20 drivers that all go out in Q1. Bottom 5 get eliminated. 15 drivers go out in Q2. The bottom 5 get eliminated. And those bottom 10 now stay in that order on the grid from 11 to 20. And the top 10 drivers go out again in Q3, and their order in that session determines their order for the race. So then you get 1 through 20 lining up on the grid, and that's determined by those 3 sessions. Then, of course, you race. Our goal for qualifying is to reach Q2, be at least 14th position, gives us an extra bonus. For the race, same thing, we want to be 14th. Now, if you think about it again, conceptually speaking, 10 teams, 2 drivers each, 2 cars each, 20 drivers on the track. If I'm in 7th position, 14th would be a goal. And that's what our target for the season was. And then as far as the hot streak target, we have 4 out of 5 races in a row where we finished at least 15th. If we do today's race, we get about $3 million. Well, $2 million. The other $1 million comes from a qualifying streak of 15th. We've only done 1 out of 5 weeks. And this, again, is in a row, so if I fail on any of these, it's done until we pick another one and try again. This is information on the track, etc. Again, I like to keep it relatively simple. If you're really running the McLaren F1 team as their team principal, as their manager, you would know a lot of the things that we're talking about already. So now we got preparation for practice, just like we did a couple weeks ago. You can change what tire you want them to go out on, how many laps you want them to do, how hard you want them to push. You can control it in real time if you control the practice session as well. The biggest thing is we want to try a setup. We want to get these little icons in the middle to be in their ideal range. You can see this blue area is the total range it could be in. This is obviously a no-no. And you could dial these in a little puzzle mini-game type thing to try and find the ideal one. Now, in reality, what you would do with this mini-game is you'd send them out to practice, run those 15 laps or whatever you told them to do. They'd come back in, they'd tell you how the car felt, the blue window would shrink, and then you would keep dialing in and repeating and dialing in and repeating. But again, these are places that they race at every year. These are information that they already have. So for me, I use a little bit of a guide to give me an acceptable range to have a good result. It doesn't give me perfection, but it does give me just a general area where they're going to be very good. And that's what I run on. Because again, especially after you've played this game a little bit, you think about it like in real life. If you've been in charge of the same team for a number of years, you're going to the same place, you would already have a general idea about how your car performs at that track. There are different factors every year and with every weekend, of course. But realistically, that's one thing you're going to be looking at is that you would know this information already. So you wouldn't have to play like a weird mini game, or you'd have no starting point. You would have a starting point. And that's what I tend to think about this, using like a little bit of a guide for the ranges. But yeah, we're going to set them out on default stats. They'll do their own laps. I don't like to control practice. Again, I don't like to control the practice settings. I don't even like to control the qualifying sessions. Again, I don't typically have too much of an impact over how they go down anyways. But it's another one of those things that we've talked about before where once you've done them, the gameplay gets very stale and repetitive by just looping that. Okay, it looks like we are not going to do very well at this track this weekend. But you can see, they're not perfect. They're not going to go out there with, these huge boosts just because I used a reference sheet. But anyways, the gameplay gets a little monotonous, and there's only so much you can really control with them anyways. For me, it comes down to the biggest, most fun challenge in this is managing the team long-term, developing the team, developing the drivers, developing the talent, coming up with a strategy, a game plan, upgrading the parts, designing them, thinking long-term and short-term with how we approach our builds, and then executing them on race day with strategy. I think bigger picture, I don't need to be the guy in charge of every session. So car 1 has a gearbox that should probably just be changed. 45% wear on the engine for car 2. You don't want to be around 30 or below, so I think I'm going to let that ride for the weekend. Car 1 needs a new gearbox, though. Actually, I may change the engine. It's not gonna... I guess the problem is, like, you only get so many of them in a season, and after that you start taking penalties. But I don't take a penalty for this race if I put it in, and you can change the car before qualifying goes out, so we're gonna run that. Start qualifying, simulate the sessions one by one just to see if I failed or not. Okay, so only one driver was eliminated, which means I reached my goal. And you only needed one to get into Q2. Ideally, he'd get 14th and not 15th, so we'll see if he does a little bit better this time around. But it sounds like some of the other teams' upgrades are putting them back on track to overtake me. So he got 14th, which means we continued our streaks and we're going to get our goals. And we did beat Piastri, who's the driver we fired. So that's a good feeling. Alright, so we're out of Q2, so we don't go into Q3, which means we don't even need to look at it or simulate it. But if we do go to reports, we can see results for qualifying. So this will be the official race start, except for Checo will take presumably a 5-race grid penalty. So he'll start 11th, actually. But that'll be our grid. And you can see where the competition is around us and who's down here. There's no real shockers. Sometimes there is. In real life, especially. Alright, so now it's pre-race, and just like when you saw me do it a couple weeks ago, or just like when you watched me do the actual racing in F1 last Wednesday, you pick a strategy. You could try and get away with a one-stopper, medium and hard tires, or we could try a two-stopper. I think I don't really have anything to lose with this guy who's in 17th position. So what I'll do, what a lot of teams do, is I'll put him on a long stint to try and go the one stop, and then just hope that at some point along the way a safety car comes out and gives us a free pit stop. We can put on fresh tires and be aggressive. But as it stands, no racing on the forecast, and performance-wise, as long as he doesn't completely fudge it up, he can get through the whole race on that. So we'll put him on a one-stopper. We're going to put Lando, who's a little further up the field, on a much more aggressive two-stopper where he can really burn through the tires and hold his own against the field. Now, one thing we talked about a little bit when I was playing last year's game a couple weeks ago was you control how aggressive they use their fuel and their tires and the little turbo in the car, the little battery backup electric turbo. And each game kind of has different exploits and different strat. You know, there's only 2 of them so far, but there's a different feel. And one of the things that this game does is it has the AI push heavily for a few laps at the beginning, and you might see that in real life too to establish your position, right? So in this game, it's more crucial than ever that you go into your driver options and make sure that right at the start of the race, you don't want to be... Sometimes it's advantageous to have your tires last a little longer, but you don't want to fall way too far behind the other teams where you're not using your tires. They are... Pit stop strategy still ends up being washed, and then you got beat just because they weren't afraid to burn some tire. So in this game, it's crucial you start out aggressive.
The drivers composing themselves on the grid ahead of 52 laps around Silverstone. And Alex Albon will know just what kind of drive will be expected of him here.
For P17, you know, they could try and be clever here, and then who knows what they could manage.
This should certainly be a good one, folks.
Alright, so we're going to get into it.
Hold on tight. It's the British Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
Love it. It's loud. Alright, so if you know me, you know that I don't watch it at real speed. Again, I think big picture strategy, react, respond, plan. The way we run it now with this year's edition is, again, we start out aggressive on fuel, turbo, a battery boost, and tires. There's already been a crash. Looks like Piastri was involved. Maybe with Perez. Just a yellow flag.
Oh, we've had a crash.
Let's see what happened. No, it was Perez, it looks like. Looks like some debris on track.
It's not going the way the team had hoped today.
So it looks like Perez took some damage. Piastri hit him, so you can see here he's got a penalty. He'll serve that when he does his pit stop. So to get back to my point, we start out aggressive on a couple of these things, right? Fuel, tires, turbo. After the first lap, put this back down to neutral usage. We run another lap aggressively on fuel and tires, try and keep our positions or fight for an extra position. After a couple laps, the AI tends to settle into their normal speed and stop burning tires as much. And that's about the point where we will stop doing the same. Put them everything back on standard/balanced usage. And let them go back out there and drive, right? Now, I don't like to watch at the crazy fast speed, but I also don't like to watch it at real time either.
We don't want to overcook the tyres.
Yeah, confirm.
A little delayed from me telling them that, but it is cool to see a lot of these things get integrated into the game. Your commands echoed by the people who would actually be giving them in a real racetrack. So then we just let the race unfurl. Again, I'm not driving the car. But we talked about this when I was doing the last stream. You can do that. Like, you could get in the cockpit view and tell them on a turn-by-turn basis or on a straight-line basis, whatever, like different commands. Don't drive right behind them. Get in clean air. Don't drive over some of the curbs. Like, those are things you can do. And to that point, what we want to look at is this command, avoid high-risk curbs. This is something I wanted to try with you guys on stream because it's a piece of advice I was reading about on Reddit recently, where just simply choosing that is going to allow you to get better tire life so you can go more aggressive and you can have stronger results. And we'll see how that pans out over a couple laps, how we end up being over our expected tire wear. You can see the overall percentage starts out as 100, of course. And then it drops down to about 30s, where the tires are just completely freaking useless to you. And the expected lifespan of the tires is indicated by on your strategy here. Which white line gives the real data of where you ended up. So you can see that by staying aggressive at the beginning and then kind of letting it come back to you, we dipped under it a little bit now that we've come back to it. And we want to finish it at or under a little bit that, but above this horizontal line of 30%. So he's got some wiggle room there. The problem with Albon on the longer strategy is he's going to be cutting it close. So if we can find a little bit of a hack to make it so his white line stays horizontal or doesn't dip as much, and say he ends up like here, then for a few laps we can be very aggressive. Maybe when some other drivers, like Norris, are pitting right around here, he can go aggressive without sacrificing his own strategy. So these are some of the tips and tricks you think of real racing, but also specifically with abusing a little bit, but also just being aware of the game's mechanics, right? All of these things are very important. Real life strategy and know-how of motorsport and F1 particularly helps, but also just understanding and learning from other people how the game works and using those mechanics to help yourself. Another crash. Looks like it was up here this time.
Now I think this, yes, it's Carlos Sainz.
See what happened here. Sainz in the Ferrari. Seems he closed the door too early.
I cannot believe it.
Which one of them got the penalty, though, is the real
Not
question.
much that the team can do about that one.
Looks like it was Carlos who got the penalty. Somewhat unsurprisingly, Sergio has passed us in the Red Bull. It's a monster of a car, so really that's surprising. He'd overtake us at some point. But you can see, like Norris, our lead driver, even though he's in the 2 car, he's our better driver. he's got like an entire straight distance to the guy behind him. And the guy behind him has a 5-second penalty. So he's already 8 seconds ahead of him. And in reality, he's about 13 seconds ahead of that guy. No, he's still only about 9 seconds ahead of these guys. But he's got a huge cushion where he can just run his race. And like I said, if he can get aggressive at certain points, like we have a chance in another lap or two to run aggressive. Both of these guys, you can see that they're leveling out really nicely. I'm not going to sacrifice Albon's race. But I will risk Norris going aggressive for another lap or two on his tires. You want to look at some of the other guys who are running the same tire compound as you, the soft, and see how much they've already used of theirs. It's nice to be a little bit better than them, but again, you don't want to be too delicate. So we'll try a couple of laps chewing away these tires and see if it has an impact. So 1 lap, and you can see he is getting closer, not at a great rate, but he's pushing. And we'll back it off for a second, let the tires cool down a little bit. Don't want to completely kill them. So we've entered our pit window. It's a several lap window in which it would be ideal, according to our strategy, to actually make our stop. His engine's falling off. So 2. But we'll keep our attention on Norris. We want to pit in 2 or 3 laps at our current rate. 2 or 3 laps. So on the next lap, we'll boost our tire usage a little bit, start building up speed, and then try to have a really fast in lap. Yeah, so we'll go aggressive on tires, a lap before we pit. Get a little bit of battery backup here. So now we're going to deploy our turbo, we're going to push our fuel, we're going to leave our tires on aggressive. And he's going to have his in-lap here, which means we are going to instruct him on this lap to come into the pit stop, change onto those tires according to the strategy we already picked. And he's at max settings on usage, so ideally, this will be a flyer of a lap. He will lose as little time as possible by making this stop. And similarly, he will go aggressive on his way out. Hopefully he came out ahead of Checo. Okay. Probably won't keep it. Again, that Red Bull is a monster, just like in real life. But that was ideal, right? He had a really fast lap. He had a great pit stop time. And he put himself ahead of the competition that was closest to him. On track at the time. Now, if this would actually update, we can look at our... So we still got him on aggressive, which is nice because it's going to heat the tires up from cold to range. Still using heavy fuel. Man, he's about burned his... Yeah. He's burned his battery back up. But just like we did at the start of the race, we'll leave that running for about a lap. Maximize usage. Put that back to neutral. We'll put our fuel back to neutral. And we're going to stay another lap or two aggressive on tire usage. In the meantime, we could pop over to Alex and see he's staying well ahead of his tire usage, but he is going long, so we probably won't go aggressive on his tires until right before he pits. Got 2 laps on that tire. He's got plenty of wiggle room at the end of that, so we'll just let him go another lap. Put that on normal. You don't want him to overheat the tires, and I don't want to pay too much of attention. Alright, so now he's out. We can turn our attention back to Alex. His pit window is going to open up in a few laps here. He's made up a few spots, partially due to him staying out while the other guys pitted, partially due to his abilities. He's in a good position right now. You can see him running around here just behind his teammate. Okay, Sergio just unleashed a whole new bubble. He's clearing us now. Alright, so Albon's pit window is going to open on the next lap. So we're going to start thinking about him. He's well ahead of his tire usage, it looks like. So I'm going to let him go with the first lap of the pit window. Not going to change anything about what he's doing. When he comes around on the next lap, put him on aggressive. Start chewing through the tires, finish their life off. On the lap before he pits, we're going to increase fuel consumption as well. He's got 2 laps. 2 laps. He pits on this next one, so remember we're also going to have him deploy his battery back up. Now he's cooking as fast as he can possibly go. Like I said, it's going to be an in-lap. He will pit for the hard tires. He's only doing 1 stop, so it's even more important than Lando that it's as little of a time impact as possible. And if you see his tire usage going down, he's going to basically damn near nail that tire life. He had a little bit of cushion left, but not much. He went about as fast as he possibly could. Now, to his discredit, the one-stop strategy is probably not the best on this track, but we didn't have much to lose. He started in 17th, and unfortunately, due to the strategy, he is now down in 18th. So we lost him a spot.
Pack is low.
But
Okay,
again,
copy.
we're going to have him harvest some more battery, and actually Lando's going to need to do the same. And we'll do that for about a lap. We'll leave him on his increased fuel and tire usage. Fuel for that lap. Go tires for 1 more lap. Again, he's got to make it all the way to the end of the race. In a perfect world, the strategy would be he goes all the way to the end. But the fingers crossed for us portion would be that there's a safety car at some point, and we can get a cheap pit stop. We can get a fresh set of tires and be very aggressive on a final stint. Whereas everyone else may not take that risk. So we've got them both back on normal driving strategy. We'll turn our attention back to Norris. He's our front-running car of the 2. And he is going to have another pit stop, so we need to be a little more dialed in on him. You can see, I mean, there's a myriad of tires on track right now, so it looks like, and it's a kudos to the developers for the AI here. They're trying different things, which means we won't know how our strategy really plays out until our last stint comes into bigger picture, probably not until about lap 45, 50, but we really have an understanding of what our likely finish position is going to be. But we came out ahead of Checo again. On his second stop, he's already taken it. So we're not ever really fighting someone like Checo Perez, because, again, that car is a monster, but you can put yourself out ahead of him. If you can stay within his DRS range, within a second of him, you know, you're going to be competitive. You're going to give yourself a good opportunity. He's blazing past us, if that tells you anything about the speed of that car. He's already almost 3 seconds ahead in 1 lap. In 1 lap. Alright, so as the audio list message we just got on the screen indicated, we're in a pit window again. And you can see, again, we tried a new tactic this time around using the driver tactic on F1 Manager 23, avoid high-risk curves. It's apparently an exploit you can use. And look at, I mean, your drivers already will probably do a little better on tire usage than the strategy would suggest, but look at the clearance he's got. I can basically put him in attack mode for the entirety of his pit window and give him a really good fighting chance against Pierre Gasly in this Alpine. And we won't lose too much on this. Alright, so he's on the lap before he comes in. We're going to add the increased fuel usage back in. Again, have him be even more competitive. And now as he rounds the final turn on the penultimate lap, we add in the battery backup as well. And we give him the instruction to come in for another set of soft tires to finish the strategy.
We will box this lap.
Perfect.
So he's flying as fast as possible. He's going to dip into the pits. He'll come out in 13th. Yeah, I wanted 12th, but he'll come out in 13th. And again, we'll run another lap at full bore for a competitive outlap. He comes in. We don't have any more battery, so we'll harvest that for a lap. We'll use one more lap of increased fuel consumption. Try to bring some of that back in, and we'll run one more lap on aggressive tire usage. And we'll put it all back on default strategy now. Click on a button here that says they're allowed to use their battery backup to battle with nearby drivers if they have anyone. Right now, neither of them really have a need for it with how far away they are from the cars around them, but it is what it is. Albon, you can see he's trending again above the predicted tire usage. So if I wanted to, I can put Albon on a lap or two of aggressive tire usage. Maybe try and make up some time to the car ahead of him, although he appears to actually be losing time. There might be a big tire differential. Yeah, Piastri on the softs versus him on the hards. Now we put him on a lap or two of usage. It'll come back down to the expected range. That's the kind of wiggle room, like I said, you can buy yourself by using some of these things. We can even put him on a lap of high fuel usage, if we want to. He's sandwiched between two soft tire users, which means he's at a major speed and grip disadvantage. Turn our attention back to Norris. Still running in 13th. If we look at the pit stops, everyone around him has taken one except for Gasly and Magnussen ahead. So as long as we're not like 30 seconds or so behind them... no, they probably won't pit, actually. They should be able to, just like Albon, make it to the end. As long as we don't grind our tires all the way down into the dust, we may have a chance to come back at them a little bit at some point in the near future. I forgot. The ugly mug should be in the middle on the games like this. Back into it. Jet fuel. So Norris got back up into 12th. So he's in battling Hulkenberg for 12th position. So if we want to give him a little advantage, we can use some of the battery backup and put him on aggressive tires, because again, we're saving a lot of tire usage with our strategy. And he should be able to put him in the rear view and not have to look back. Put the battery usage back in neutral, leave his tires on aggressive. Now we're pushing hard enough that he might actually come up on Pierre Gasly for 11th. He's within a second. And that's ideal, because he'll get the DRS usage, which will give him a boost on the straightaways to try and pass. Hopefully he does. And we'll give him another boost with fuel and one more chance with the battery backup. Now we'll try and put Pierre in the rear view. We want to build again an over second gap to him so he doesn't have the same DRS benefit. And then we're just going to have to make sure in the next... And again, like, we only have 1 lap left. 2 laps left. You can see here we're very close and how we have so much more tire than we expected. Now, if we take a look at Alex, he's fighting for 15th against Nick DeVries. And he has significantly more tire left in hand than he would have thought. So we're going to put him on an aggressive strategy to try and defend, to overtake and defend as well. We'll lower the speed down to 4x instead of 8. So we can try and make sure we don't blow it with either of them. But if Norris can maintain this level of aggression, he may actually overtake Kevin Magnussen. He's going to have failing tires because he's at 30% or lower. If he can pass him, he might get up into the points position, and that's going to be huge for us. So let's give him everything he's got on this here final lap of the race. See if he can get past. Albon still fighting DeVries, it looks like. Norris with DRS clears him pretty easily.
Focus on fuel from now, please.
We are going to have to conserve fuel, it looks like. See if we can get that up. We only got 1 lap left. Alex, go back into neutral. Past DeVries, we'll put his battery back. We'll leave his tires on aggressive. Norris.
Okay, that's the checkered flag. Finished P15.
Good job. Yay. Yes, good.
15 starting in 17. It's not necessarily the worst thing that's ever happened. Norris, pretty firm lock here on 10th, so get him across the finish line without incident, and he'll score a point.
Okay, Lando, good job. That's the checkered flag. We finished P10.
I think you did something good with the strategy.
I did do something good with the strategy. Thank you, Lando, for noticing. So yeah, that was us using what we know about the sport, the drivers, this car, using what we've learned about this game in the few hours we've played.
Not a quick race to sum up, not least for George Russell there.
So we take a look here at the results list. You can see again, Lando 3 positions up. He started 13th, apparently. I thought he started at 14, but he went up 3 positions to score a point at the very penultimate lap, so that was exciting. Alex Albon, similarly, we were able to raise him a few places as well. Not that it matters, he is just fighting for pride at that point. So for the Drivers' Championship, Lando stays in 11th, Alex stays in 13th. They both have points, but we are now 1 point closer to Pierre Gasly for 10th. And it would be nice to finish top 10 with one of our drivers. And on the team side of things, the constructor side, there was no change in overall positions, but we have now added another point over Haas. And since they have such a hard time scoring points, every single one of these we can pip and get over them is huge. 7th was our goal. The higher we can get above or stay above 7th, it's only going to be a boon for us in our development. So, really good race for us. Pit stops. 2 fastest pit stops, just like in real life. Red Bull, we had a 5th and 8th fastest, which is actually unusual for us. But in the overall championship, based on just pit stops alone, we are 2nd with a huge gap to 3rd. So I don't know I don't remember what the reward is for that, but it's really nice to see. as our team develops. That so is our pit stop crew. And because we qualified on that hot streak and the individual race, we added about $5.5 million just this weekend. Which is huge, because again, we constantly need to be developing and upgrading and replacing parts. So, and Lando with a ratings increase from 88 to 89. Race engineer William Joseph, which I think is Lando's, also had a rating increase. Alright, so requires response, go to inbox. Percy Amato, F1 in Schools invitation. Good morning. Our annual F1 in Schools World Finals is starting with the aim to spread awareness about careers in science and engineering throughout the magnetic appeal of F1. We would like to invite your staff to attend the finals this year. There really isn't a more exciting way for students to learn about engineering, and we know that having practicing F1 professionals sharing their passion and experience will only enhance the competition. We've already corresponded with your board of directors, and they are in full support. They would be willing to provide a complimentary bonus payment to make up for the disruption. So you get an extra $100,000 with staff development as paused for 7 days. I think it's worth it. Our staff's in really good shape. It's not as important as the car developing or the drivers developing. Not that we need $100,000, but car inspection results. We got a couple of parts that failed. We'll talk about that in a second. There is a durability rating on every car part you make, and if they fall below a certain threshold, it's considered unusable and you have to change them. So we have a regulation vote change as well. There's 2 vote changes and rules that they vote upon twice a year. We vote on it. One of them is on the car side of things. Hey, what's up, buddy? Yeah, I saw you were playing this, man. I know, it is very addicting. And I got to be honest, the changes from 22 to 23 in some cases are a little minor, but in a lot of ways, like, it feels much better. It's definitely more challenging, and you have to play with a little bit more smarts and nuance. But that's really fun. And the disappointing performance they gave McLaren this year was the perfect opportunity to try and take a team and turn them around a little bit. The only thing that pisses me off is that they really undervalue Piastri, because he's driving freaking his balls off in real life right now, and he couldn't drive for shit in this game, so I sacked him and replaced him with Albon. But we're turning it around. They wanted us to be in 7th place, and currently I'm 6th, though. Just had a very electric race in Silverstone. But as I was saying, we got to vote on some changes here. We already voted on the one type of change that they do in these games, which is the car itself and how they perform. Regulation changes, which happen in real life. This time it's a scoring change they want to vote on, and this particular suggestion would be that there's an extra bonus point given to the person who earns pole position in the qualifying session. I'm not necessarily against it in reality, but considering my team is so far away from getting pole position in this game, it would be doing myself a disservice to give someone else a free point. So I'm going to vote against it. And then I mentioned car part inspection results. Again, one of the changes this year was a durability slider when you're developing car parts, which didn't exist before. So now, after time, parts will deteriorate and need to be replaced. And that happens, the inspection happens after every race, not before. So now I have to go into the cars, look at the parts that didn't pass, and swap them. I can swap it out for the same type. Now I only have 3 of them. Suspension, same thing, I can swap it out. First go at it, I got fired from Mercedes by Spot. Otmar speedrun, any percentage complete, let's go. I'm trying to pass right now, but Magnussen crashes almost every race. I think I'm going to fire him soon. Yeah, I think that's the tricky bit, and it seems like certain save files just get locked into like a loop with like driver confidence and stuff, where like they bin it, they get lower confidence, which means they drive worse, which means they bin it more, and it's just a fucking self-fulfilling cycle. And we're going to swap out all these parts to make sure they're fresh on our cars. We haven't used too many engine pieces right now, so we don't have any grid penalties, but we will. We will. Alright, so all the car parts are now... Whoa, the new rear wing was available. So, I don't understand how to manage the engines without getting grid penalties unless you just eat the penalty eventually. The reality of the situation is, yes, there is really no managing them. You could run them in lower engine usage, lower fuel usage. You could try and save laps in practice sessions. Maybe don't run them for half a P3 or something like that. But the reality is, think about it just like the mid to end push in a regular F1 season. If you watch it live, there's a lot of grid penalties in the later portion of the season because there just isn't enough. And there's a strategy in and of itself about when you take penalties and when, like, to swap out for a new engine or a new gearbox or a new ERS. And you just have to do it eventually. So sometimes it just comes down to like when. If, for instance, especially in real life, but even in the game, if you know that you're probably not going to score a point at like Austin, right? Like you're just Circuit of the Americas, not a good track for your car. But the race after, you could be competitive if you have fresh gear. So like you put that gearbox change, that engine change in COTA, start at the back of the grid. You're never going to get a point anyways. Take that hit, and then you come out at a track where you have an opportunity to get a good amount of points, and I don't have to worry about the penalty. Maybe your competition's taking one. So these are some of the ways you have to view that. But no, unfortunately, it very much sucks because you really do have to inevitably take a hit on grid penalties for changing out your parts. And like I said, that's one of those things that's frustrating when you're playing management games, that you kind of have to be punished by a mechanic. But having watched F1 very closely for like 4 straight seasons now, it's real. Like that happens to them. So, it is what it is, I guess. So let's take a calendar, see what we got going on. We got a bunch of manufacturing going on. Got a board vote soon. So we always want to review car development. We got a bunch of we've switched over. I'm at the point in the season now where I know that I'm not going to be 2nd, 3rd, 4th this season. So I'm done designing parts for this year to try and be more competitive. I'm solely focused on churning and burning research for next year's car and coming out of the gate competitive. So I've maxed out all of my slots, all of my engineers on these research projects for next year's car. And as soon as these guys are done, 3 days and 9 days from now, I'm going to start a new research project and just keep going so that every car part has somewhere between 2 and 3 researches done on it by the time the season ends. And we hopefully have a significantly more competitive car next year. And ideally, I'd like to maybe try and fight for 4th or 5th position instead of 6th or 7th. And that's just a personal goal. I know that huge changes don't happen year to year, but if you have that same strategy for 2 or 3 years, where you sacrifice current production for next year's production around midway, you'll get there. I also have a couple manufacturers of different parts. So let's just let the clock roll for a little while. So yeah, research complete on next year's suspension. So now we can research either an underfloor or another suspension project. Switch it over to the underfloor this time. Still have some CFD and wind tunnel hours to allocate. So we'll throw those on. And again, I was talking earlier about like some of the exploits or different mechanics being different between game to game and how you're going to use them to your advantage. One of the things also in this one, when you're designing a car part, this is a research, so it's a little different. But when you do current year designs, one of the sliders you'll have will be durability. Now, you're going to have to change these parts eventually, and it's very cheap to just manufacture an extra part or two. So the current like meta approach when designing a current year car part is to put the slider on durability down, take the hit on durability, but then you can crank an area of the car part that you really need to develop more. Maybe it's low speed downforce, maybe it's drag, maybe it's your cooling. And that's a way for you to, like in 22, you could just crank all the sliders because the negative impact it had was negligible. They fixed that this year, but they overlooked that if you sacrifice durability and just make a couple extra parts, you can still gain a significant stat boost in one of the other areas. So if you're designing a part, you might come down to durability, nerf it like that, and then take your low speed downforce and crank it. We're researching next year's car. I just want it to be competitive. I don't want to worry about gaming the system, or like I can get, plus 2.02 here if I sacrifice 0.1 of it. Like, I don't want to worry about all that. So for research, I'm just going to go in straight up balanced mode. We'll put all the available engineers that were on that last project on this one, and it'll take 36 days, and I'll have a car part that adds this, and this to next year's car. And then in a few more days, another one will be done, and then we'll add another thing. It's a whole thing. So keep letting the clock run. So we got underfloor ML 23-2. So if we look in our warehouse, the underfloor at 23-2 is a low stock, but that's because the underfloor Mark III is being developed. But if I really was worried about it, I could basically emergency manufacture, just buy a couple of them. Again, we don't have a race for another week, and in that time there will be 2 more underfloors completed. So we should be okay. Not panicking on that one yet. So we'll let the clock run a little bit more. The regulation vote. Majority of teams voted in favor of the changes, so the sporting regulations will come into effect. So most teams voted for. Actually, it looks like it came to a tie, and then there was a tiebreaker vote. But it looks like the majority of the teams voted for the extra point for pole position. Now, it's interesting when you look at the teams who voted against it, because Red Bull is dominant right now, and even they said they don't want the extra point for getting that. And a lot of the back-running teams voted for it, despite the fact that they would never be competing for that point. So it's really interesting to wonder about the mentality of the AI in that particular instance, because it seems like self-sabotage in some ways to just give another team a free point if you're never going to get it. So we completed the manufacturing project of the new rear wing. It's already installed on both cars, but we have a total of 6 of them, which means we have 4 extras. And again, durability will wear away and we'll have to replace them. So like last year's game, it would just be like, do I think they're going to crash 2 or 3 times and need to replace it? Have a couple extra. Now, you need to have some extra because they're going to wear away. And especially because I stopped designing the car for this year, meaning there will be no new rear wings being made. I can't just count on me naturally producing a new part, so I need to make sure this stays in stock. Research for the side pods is complete for next year's car. So I've already done 2 on the side pods. Side pods are one of the most critical components on a car altogether, so I'm going to probably do a 3rd. I don't have any more CFD or wind tunnel hours to allocate, so I can't give it more of a boost than this. So it's marginal, but it's still a boost. It's still within budget. So we're just going to go ahead and develop it. You'd never stop grinding, right? Still got maxed out slots, but they're going to be busy for at least 2 to 3 weeks on some of the even easier ones. Race preview. Race is coming up in a few days. So now we're going to do a couple things. Look at the car builds first, because we manufactured a few new parts recently. We want to make sure the newest parts are on these cars. So Actually, the simplest way to do that is to go to warehouse, to go to chassis. There is a new chassis design. I only have one of them built, though. So what I'll do is I'll put it on car 2, because that's Lando, who's their better driver. So he's going to run a new spec, with Alex running the old one. There's no backups for this, though, so if Lando crashes, I'm a little fucked. Front wing, the newest version is installed on both cars. Rear wing, same thing, we already talked about that one. Side pods, we got the newest version on both. We only have 4. I'm going to produce an extra 2 and kind of rush it, even though it's a little pricey. Again, if they crash or if that part wears away, we don't have a lot of extra. Underfloor, again, we designed a new one. We got 3 of them in stock, so we can put it on both cars, and they can have a little bit of a boost there. Suspension, the newest one is on both cars. We only have 4, but I have no more manufacturing slots, so we can't tweak that yet. Now, on a car-by-car basis, we want to look at their powertrain and make sure that their components of their engine are good. Like you saw last time, they started wearing away, some performance suffers, and just like Tea Party Tickler and I were just talking about, you what were we just talking about? Yeah, you have to eventually change these out anyways, so you just kind of want to stay ahead of the curve. Now, the problem with the ERS here is you're only allocated 2 of them in a season, so the moment I buy this, not only is it going to cost me $2.5 million, but they will take a grid penalty for going over the allocated amount. Now, like I said, you're going to have to take that hit at some point. You know, we have a lot of races, right? Like, we're currently on Budapest, but there's all these to go. And we're already almost through our second ERS. So, like, mathematically speaking, we're gonna have to eat that penalty and change that part. It just, like, we're on round 12 out of 23. We're probably going to use 4 ERSs of the 2 that we were allotted. So, again, that part is not rocket science. We are just going to have to take that. Again, a reminder, before every race, we got to pick our performance targets. There's always 3 chosen for you, 1 in each category. They want us to reach qualifying 2. They want us to finish at least 14th, and they on a 5-race streak of finishing above 15th. And then you pick other guarantees. So I could say I want to reach Q3 and be top 10. I would like to. This car hasn't historically been capable of that, so I'm not going to choose that. But I do think I could be at least 14th. So I'll add that on for a little extra bonus money. And the amount that we could possibly lose is negligible compared to what we would gain, so I always take the gamble. The problem with the race targets is there's only ever 2, finish position and fastest lap. And if finish position was the one chosen for you, then fastest lap would be the only optional one, and we're not going to have the fastest lap of the race. And we had already chosen our streak, which was to qualify in above 15 for 5 races straight. We've done that for 2 in a row. We're shooting for our 3rd. It's $1 million payout if we hit it. So we've picked our targets. We've made sure that our car is fitted with parts that passed inspection, and the newest spec possible of everything we have. So the only thing left to do now, go to the race weekend and see it done.
Welcome to the beautiful Three Springs Valley, here in Hungary. We've arrived at the Hungaro Ring, located just outside Budapest. It's one of the shortest laps on the F1 calendar. Drivers are forced close together on this track, jostling for position and defending their space to the end.
I love this track, but it's challenging. Alright, so just like before, we're setting our cars up for the practice sessions, trying to learn about our setups, learn about the new parts we put on the car, learn about the track, and come up with a race strategy. So again, car setup, little mini game. I'm going to go off the chart that I use based on historical data. Again, it's not perfect. We are not guaranteeing ourselves a perfect setup, but we are guaranteeing ourselves a good setup. So we get that set up. I don't usually change anything about the defaults of what tire they practice on or how many laps they run to learn about the setup. I let them do their thing. Again, my focus is big picture, team development, business development, strategy. So simulate. Go back, actually. Is this a sprint weekend? No, it's not a sprint weekend. So we'll simulate through the practice sessions, as I do. It does give you a kind of an estimator of where your team will be when it comes to qualifying, though, and we look to be right about where we want to be, which is good. So drivers do well on this track, and the upgrades to the car put us a couple of spots ahead of where we were last race. Better be winning. We're midding. We're midding, son. Midding. We are winning the mid-off. So, Jeff, we're talking through. This is 23. Last time you saw me play, we were on 22. There are some changes, some tweaks. You know how obsessive I am about my simulator games, though. I've already learned how to take advantage of some of these changes. But we are doing the same thing we were doing with the last F1 Manager stream, which is taking a team that is not the best and trying to get them into some glory. The advantage of this one now, though, is there's no game coming up for another year, so we'll be able to see this career through. So, qualifying sessions, again, there's nothing for me to change or tweak or do right now. We're just going to send them out there. Now, one thing that was noted as a change between 22 and 23 on the qualifying sessions is that it's actually more advantageous in this game to send your driver out there to do 2 competitive laps at a time rather than 1. For whatever reason, whether it's the confidence change dynamic that they introduced or the way that they change tire temperatures, it's just more competitive for you to do 2 flying laps as opposed to 1. So we're going to send these guys out for simulate session 1 qualifying. Now typically we'll lose one of our drivers. Usually it's Alex. He's going to start in 18th position. Lando got up into 11th though. If he can do marginally better, he may make it into Q3. Although we didn't take that bet before the session, it would still be an awesome result for him. Oh, that's why I thought that there was different ATA qualifying, alternative tire allocation. This year they were trying a new rule out where you had to use a certain type of tire in each session rather than using whatever you want at your own discretion. Alright, so he got eliminated. He's in 18th. Q1. Lando, our better driver, was in 11th. He's got a very high confidence because that is a good result. And that should help him do even better in the coming session. Just going to make sure to put him on 2. I like to reset it for some reason because the game just glitches out between sessions sometimes. So we'll let him run. He'll probably get eliminated, but he might not. He did, and he lost a spot from his first session. He's in 12th. So our 2 drivers are going to start 12th and 18th. Our main competition... No, it's you're not the only one, buddy. I read the hack a few weeks ago, or whatever, a couple weeks back, or whatever it was, that tried to do 2 flying laps. And at that time, the game was still very new to me, so I actually ran the sessions. And I had, Q1, perfect. They went out, did a flyer, cool down lap, flyer, in lap. And then Q2, you wouldn't think to change anything, because there'd be no reason to change anything. They'd go out and only do 1 lap and then come back in. So I just started resetting it and then applying the logic again. But so if you compare to our main competition, which is Alpine and Haas, we're kind of sandwiched in between all of them. But Lando, especially if we use a couple of the strategy tools that we used last race, he has a really good chance of getting up into the points as long as he doesn't fucking bin it. So.
Race day has arrived, and the time has almost come for these drivers to fight it out, wheel to wheel.
The heart may be in Budapest, but the racing soul is right here. Decades of...
Alright, so it's race day, and as usual, the most important thing for us right now, driver strategy. Now, when you have drivers in wildly different positions, i.e. one that's dead center of the pack, 8th through 12th, one that's at the end, two different strategies make sense to try. And usually you want to go for a long first stint with your alternative strategy. So if you were to try and do a one-stop, I don't think you would be able to do it. So you're going to have to do a two-stopper. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create an alternate strategy. Strategy D. And what we'll do is we'll start out on the hard, which goes the longest. Then we'll switch to mediums. And we'll try to get the hards to last as long as humanly possible. So probably right about 35. And then clearly he can't finish the race on those. They fall below 30% well before the end of the race. So we'll tack on a final stint on the softs. Yeah, we'll try to... We're not going to go as long as possible. We'll leave some wiggle room. But this will be a very aggressive, like, 13 or so laps on the soft. Now, again, the fingers crossed moment you do with a strategy like this is that somewhere in here, there's a safety car. You get a cheap time pit stop. Come out on maybe a soft or a medium and just go aggressive to the end. But we're going to create this alternative strategy that we're going to put Albon on. Apparently it's going to be slower than all the other ones, but I don't really believe that. But Lando up in the pack, he needs to be a little bit aggressive, so he's going to use the opposite strategy. He's going to start out on a competitive tire. I'm not going to go with the softs at the beginning. But medium hard soft is not an unruly strategy for him. And we can actually shorten the first stint by a couple laps. And I'll let him be a little bit more aggressive as well. So two drivers, two different positions, two different strategies to try. Alex going very long at the beginning, hoping for a safety car in either the first or second stint. And then Norris in the middle of the pack starting a little bit more aggressively. And with a plan where he can go out aggressive. Again, we were just talking differences between 22 and 23. The AI pushes much harder at the beginning of races in this game. So we're going to want to put our drivers on aggressive fuel, tire, and ERS usage right at the beginning to at least stay competitive with them. If not, maybe take a person or two at the start. After a couple laps, settle into our normal pace, and then kind of get on with our lives. We'll talk again about a couple other differences when the race actually runs.
There's a fantastic atmosphere at the Hungaro Ring as we prepare for 70 laps of the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Just a couple laps, nice little stroll.
This race should be a good chance to see what Valtteri Bottas can manage.
Not a huge surprise to see them on the back row, but they've certainly got the potential to move up from here.
That's the news
And
story,
here we go
Valtteri Bottas
with
on the fucking back
Hungarian
row.
Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
So without incident-ish. Alright, so we've come into our first turn. Norris stayed in 12th. Alex lost a spot down to 19th. Not crazy surprising for either of those things to be true. So one thing we talked about with this one is a little bit different. In the tactics section, there was avoid curbs in last year. And this one they call it avoid high-risk curbs. And the kind of current meta is to click that. And for whatever reason, it's just going to tremendously save tire usage without killing your overall pace. And that allows you to stay on aggressive or attack with your tires for a lot longer or for more stints without sacrificing your tires or your pace and giving you that actually added boost to lap time that comes with your driver being aggressive. And as a reminder for me, I do not go turn by turn. I do not watch it at real speed. I'm a team principal, big picture, strategy, reacting to things that happen, changing conditions, things like that. I do not like the grind of controlling all of these settings on like every other turn or things like that. But that is one of the coolest things about the level of simulation they give you in this race. Is there's a million data screens, there's a million ways to tweak things, there's a million commands to give them. And you can dial that in on a turn-by-turn basis, a lap-by-lap basis, a stint-by-stint basis. It doesn't matter. You just can play it the way you want to play it. But I like to play it at a slightly faster speed with the overhead view, giving big-picture instructions and changes and reactions. So just like we did last race, we got them in their settings, we got them in their instructions. We're going to go one lap with everything cranked. And we'll set their battery, the ERS usage, back down to normal after a lap. We'll run another lap on high tire and fuel. And I usually knock the fuel off here, let him recover some. Now Alex, he's got to go long on his tires, and even though we are going to save some with that avoid curbs, he's also got a much higher temperature. And he needs to go longer. So we're going to drop him back to full, normal. Just going to let him run his race right now. He's got a different race than Norris. Norris, on the other hand, has a much more aggressive strategy. So I'm going to leave him on aggressive tire usage for a little while longer. If he can stay within a second and get that DRS, bully for him. Ooh, a crash. Russell with a penalty. Oh, yeah, the fucking human... missile on track. Fucking George Russell. Always hitting some other people.
There's a yellow flag now.
Alright, what did he do? Great picture quality, Frontier, thank you. Oh, the new Mercedes!
Okay, plenty of space.
And he's blaming it on someone else too. This is the most realistic thing that could ever happen. So the two Mercedes hit each other. Russell, at the very least, looks to have damage and a penalty. That may help us if we make a charge for the points later on. So nothing we really need to do there. Just interesting to know. And it's funny sometimes when you watch the highlights, the actual replays of the crashes, because the game is basically just running like random number generation to determine if these cars hit each other. The output of what it looks like is sometimes just really wonky. But yeah, Russell already had to pit to fix damage, and he served his 5-second penalty. Nick DeVries overtook Norris. I don't think anyone would ever say that in real life, but okay. So now again, it's just about monitoring their first stints, making sure nothing gets out of whack, making sure their tires and things don't overheat, yada, yada, yada. And just keeping them a little bit competitive. So I'll let it run for a little while. When we get into, closer to like 20 laps or so in, I'll revisit. Well, maybe in a few more laps I'll revisit. You can see already that, like, the actual tire usage is way less than expected, and that is hugely a result of us hitting avoid high-risk curbs. So now it's allowing us to just stay so much more aggressive. So Norris up here fighting for his life from Yuki Tsunoda, second and a half back from Kevin Magnussen. Like, we can have him do another 2 or 3 laps on aggressive tire usage. Give him just that little bit extra boost to fight Yuki off and maybe get closer to Magnussen. Hamilton already pitting, looked like he did have some damage as well. Norris within DRS now on Magnussen. And like I said, look at his tire usage. It's just absolutely astonishing how little impact even running aggressive is at this point on his tires with that command. So just leave him out there for a few laps. He's not overheating his tires. He's not crashing, at least yet. Oh, I forgot to turn on the setting to allow him to use the ERS to assist in battles. That is going to help him as well. That's my bad. Sorry, Lando. I didn't give you all the tools. But like, there's almost no reason for him not to just run on attack. Like, even with it taking a ding over the last few laps, he's still nowhere near the expected usage. It's nuts. They're not overheated. Like, if we go down and look at the car, they're not overheated. Like, it is a little bit of a hack. They'll probably patch that out, but for right now, we can use it to our advantage. Just like any real F1 team would use any loophole or any single piece of advantage they have over someone else to help them. We can do that with the game. The same thing with Albon. We can even put him on aggressive usage, try and hold off Logan Sargent, maybe catch back up to Yuki. So far, so good in this race. It's a lot of laps. Two-stopper. But they can just be aggressive with their tires, and it just feels a little grimy, but it also feels really good to see your driver gaining on their competition, you know? When they patch that up, we'll find a new way to stay competitive with our enemies. I mean, our competition. Although with the amount of drama F1 has in real life, sometimes it does seem more like mortal enemies than just competition. The amount of shit stirring is unparalleled compared to other sports.
Something's happening.
I'll keep you updated.
Some minor ERS damage, like we were talking about. Different parts of the powertrain wear away. They only get so many of them. And we've fallen below 40%, which is the threshold for ERS to be considered minor damage. Now, the negative effects is the amount of power that will happen when I turn on ERS boost here is hampered, so that will not have as strong of a positive impact when we use it as it might normally, which sucks. But it is far from the worst thing that could happen. Far from the worst thing that could happen. So Lando is in his pit window. He'll pit in just a few laps here. We could probably extend this stint even by a lap or so if we wanted to. Oh, what happened? There was a crash. Looks like DeVries at least was involved. He's got a penalty. Doesn't look like it was anywhere near our cars. That's like that heart in your chest moment when you see the crash
And we've
icon.
had a crash on track.
Let's see what it might have looked like here. Oh, Nick.
And clearly then, not what everyone in the gap.
And it looks like they hit Joe, which sucks. So we can extend this stint a little bit. Our tires look amazing. We have reasonable pace to everyone around us. So I'm going to just extend by another lap or so. We'll push our battery or our fuel now. Coming around the corner for this, we'll deploy our ERS. And we'll have him pit this lap for the second stint, which will be on hards. So going full bore on his in lap. We extended the stint because our tire usage was phenomenal. And again, if you're just tuning in or just paying attention to me and you're interested in exploiting that a little bit, that is by clicking on your driver and the second tab here, go into tactics and avoiding the high risk curves. For whatever reason, it is just OP. From like lap 15 on, we left him on attack tire usage and he's still stayed well above the delta. So it is just OP right now, but we're clawing for every point we can get, so we're going to take advantage of that. So we got Norris coming in. Let's see where he pops back out. Somewhere right outside the points, hopefully. I never want to be behind Piastri because we fired him and it just makes us look bad. Albon, same thing. We put him on attack on lap 15 as well, and he's still staying well above his delta. That long stint is going to be even longer than it already was. So it's pretty impressive how well that works in reality. So Norris, we'll have him go full bore on his out lap. Change some settings in just a second here. I like to have him go in lap and out lap at full bore. One lap in, we don't want to use all of our fuel. We want to go on the attack again when he makes a second stop. And we'll go top up for a lap on his ERS as well, so he has some of that for later in the race. So we'll go another lap like that, and we'll put him on normal for that as well. And again, we're just going to leave. We're going to try as a test stint, leaving him on attack tire usage, and see if it has any impact if he just stays on it versus being instructed to go on it halfway through a stint. Put the speed back up now that they're done with that stop. We'll pay back attention to Albon because he's coming up on his pit window. And gonna just reevaluate what we're listening to here real quick. Alright, Albon in the pit window officially. We're gonna let him go. He may be able to turn a fucking one-stopper out of this, honestly. Which is just bonkers to think about. But that's how good his fucking tire usage is right now. And I think what we'll actually do, because the hard tire is not performing very well for either of these drivers on a pace level, we might actually use an undercut method with Norris because this tire usage hack is so OP. We may really undercut this hard stint and go longer on the softs at the end because it's going to be way more competitive of a time. But for right now, like we were just talking about, we're going to have Albon extend his stint by a lap or two, so he can spend more time on the mediums and softs similarly. Let's go one more lap. So come around this final bend, we'll throw our ERS full bore, and we'll instruct him to come in this lap for the mediums. That was a terrible stop.
Over to you, Karun.
What happened?
Alex Albon had come in to stop.
That really sucks.
Oh, but something's not right. Oh dear.
I didn't really get the visuals for that right, but that is kind of what it feels like. They're just waiting forever, but he probably lost about 4 or so seconds on that one. So he's on his out lap. We'll run him full bore like we did with Lando. Full bore. We're on a lap on top up for ERS. One more lap on aggressive. Yeah, there's the issue. Yeah, like it makes what? It makes no sense, right? Like, I mean, it would make sense if they had included the visual of a tire, like, actually stuck, or... Yeah, they just didn't put the car down. It's so obvious. Oh, another crash. Verstappen with the penalty. What happened here?
And there's been quite a crash.
Is this the Ferrari master plan?
Now this was at turn 1.
Have Red Bull crash?
With not much room to move. And the
Ooh.
contact between the cars,
Squeezed him.
inevitable. And that won't do their confidence any good.
If he pits, where would he come out? Just wondering if we can get him on mediums sooner than later. I'm gonna let Albon run on normal for a while and see if he can do a one-stopper. I mean, there's really he's not gonna get up into the points regardless, so. I mean, Norris running on freaking attack this whole time and he's still not
and here
losing.
we've got a yellow flag.
Verstappen was in the pits for a healthy amount of time, and he's still in 6th. That's how fast that car is. Good stuff. Alright, so Albon's tires are actually cold. Put him on aggressive and see if that helps. Ocon. He got bias. We're running in 12th and 13th, and there's a 24-second distance between them. Zorforce. Alright, Norris is in his pit window. Like I was saying before, we're going to undercut by a couple laps just to get back on those softs, I think. So we'll have him on this next lap come in. Get him on some fresh softs and see what he can do with that at the end of the race. Alright, Norris in. Got a decent stop. He's coming out, stayed in 11th. That's great news. So we're in him high bore on the way out. Here's empty. Yeah, he lost a spot. Put him on top up a little bit just to make sure he's got some ERS to fight. On the computer. Alright, Norris back on neutral. Let's keep an eye on Albon now. He's still got to make a stop. I don't think he can make it without stopping. She'd be close. I'll have him come in. I don't want to risk it. Pit now, though. He had another fucking terrible stop. They've really hosed Albon this race, man. They did him dirty. They really did him dirty this race. Alright. Nothing left to do except let them drive. We got our drivers on competitive tires and attack strategies when they're not going to lose any real performance. They both have instructions to use ERS to assist their battles. They both have ERS to use. Alright, Norris is coming up on Russell. What's the tire difference like? Softs against mediums. It's got a little extra fuel. It's got a little ERS. See if we can pip that spot. Yeah, he did it! I know the ERS is empty, bro. Put it on top up. Stop using all that fuel. See if he can keep that spot. But he's got a better tire, so. He's got about 5 laps to try and chase down Nico in front of him. Same tire, though. He's making up huge ground, though. See if there's anything we can give him. Giving them the tools to try and pass the people near them, because they are both very close to the cars in front of them. Let's see if I can get them. In the case of Norris, that means another point. In the case of Albon, it's just some pride, because he got to beat the guy that we brought him in to replace. At last lap. This is where I will manage it on an almost turn-by-turn basis.
And Sainz crosses the line first. He's taken the win.
You don't hear that every day. Damn it, dude. 0.284 from getting a fucking point.
Okay, that's the checkered flag. Well done.
All right.
And that's another race done for Fernando.
Sainz, Leclerc, Perez. Silek Per. Your usual podium, that's for damn sure. Alright, so we finished behind both Alpines and one Haas, which may affect some things here. We're so close, but they're just a little bit better than us, so I don't think we're going to finish top 10 in the drivers. And they gained one more point back on us, which is like the last thing I wanted to give up. We're not at the risk of going below 7th, thankfully, which is our target, but I would love to stay in 6th. It would be huge for us to get that extra money and have that in our arsenal. We only had one of the top 10 pit stops, so that's going to hurt us in the overall pit stop championship, but still huge lead over 3rd, so. And again, I don't remember what the reward is for that, if there is one. I think we hit all our targets, so we got the extra bonus, so. Alright, so let's see. ERS poor condition, I know that. And we got a couple more parts that failed inspection that need to be changed. Can we scout them? No? Alright, so let's run the clock a little bit. We got a couple things manufactured on Wednesday. Put that on car 1. So they both have the new chassis. Got the front wing. I should probably make more, but I don't have a slot. Rear wing, they both have it. Side pods, they both have it. Underfloor, they both have it. Manufacturing one more, which won't be enough. Suspension, they both have it, so. And car 2, which is Lando, the ERS. I think we just got to go ahead and buy one. So Spa is the race that we're about to start. Crucial for this track is high speed. I don't know. Just trying to decide if I want to take the hit now or just try and run one of these ERSs into the ground with them this weekend. Just doesn't look like it's going to be a great race for our car regardless, so maybe I'll just take the hit and eat the ERS now. Yeah, he's good on the other parts. Take a look at Alex's car. He's pretty good on his ERS, actually. He'll probably need a new one after this weekend. Alright, so we're getting on the car build. As always, we got to look at our performance targets. I don't know that we're reaching Q3, but I do feel pretty confident in Q2. I don't think we're going to get fastest lap, and we still have our target streaks, so nothing to change there. Inbox, everything's been read, so we got one more race weekend ahead of us.
This weekend, we're in Belgium, in the picturesque province of Liège. Halfway through the season, it's too early to call the championship.
Alright, so looks like good weather all the way through, and then a rainy race day, which should make things very interesting and may negate the grid penalty to a degree. Alright, so... well, you guys know the routine at this point. Get our setup set up. All right. So interesting, we were talking about it before the last race, but they have tried new things in F1 when it comes to weekend structure. And one of them being the race, some of them have sprint races, and it changes the entire structure of the weekend. And finally, in this year's F1 Manager, that is being reflected as well, in the way that that is handled.
It's time to determine.
So just like before, we'll do qualifying, but instead of it determining the order for the race, it's going to determine the order for the sprint race. So we got the qualifying, then the second practice session, then a sprint, no third practice session, and then a race. The race order in the game determined by the sprint. So just like we were talking about last race as well, 2 flying laps in 23 is better. You'd see it. Norris out at 16, and he has a grid penalty, so he'll probably be starting from the very back of the grid. Albon barely made it, knocked his buddy out. I assume Albon will be out in this one as well, and I assume he'll be 15th. Yep. Alright, so they're both out, so it'll jump us right to the sprint weekend. Sponsors-wise, 14th was the goal, but we did get that one, which is to reach Q2. We lost a little bit of money, but nothing major at all. So that's qualifying for us. One driver out in Q1, one driver out in Q2. Simulate the second practice session, and then we will be in the sprint race, which, for those of you unfamiliar, think of it as a lengthier qualifying race or a much shorter race. And it's going to determine the order for the actual race on Sunday. So we actually do have some pretty competitive times. I'm surprised. It didn't look like our car was going to do very well at Spa, but starting confidence is pretty good for both of them.
This weekend, it's something a little bit different, as the Grand Prix grid is decided by more racing in today's eagerly anticipated sprint.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. So we got a sprint race. Weather looks to be dry. So we got Albon in 13th, Norris in 20th. Looks like we'll make it all the way with any tires, so no reason to do anything but soft, I guess. Really, I don't know why you would use anything else, to be fair. Just like we were talking about last race, the AI is aggressive on the start, so we need to be aggressive as well. So we'll get right into it.
15 long and challenging laps await the drivers in today's...
Like I said, just
Here
a
we
shortened
are,
race,
the
essentially.
sprint around Spa-Francorchamps. And it's lights out, and away we go.
I like that visual of everybody in the back just kind of stopping, reacting to what's going on in front. Alright, so like we talked about before, guys, the current, a little bit OP move, driver tactics, avoid high-risk curbs. For some reason, just gives you a huge boon to your tire usage, which allows you to stay on aggressive or attack tire strategies and have a slight pace advantage over your competition without it actually killing all of your tires. You still have to watch the other statistics, like fuel, but those can come back to you. So we're going to get through this last straight away. We'll put both of their fuel and ERS on normal usage. and we'll leave their tires aggressive. Now, one thing I could try and do, but it shouldn't really matter because the people below us aren't really much of a threat, is I could have Albon. I could instruct him not to fight his teammate and to always defend, which would essentially mean that there's no command for it in this game to back the pack up, but I could essentially have him back the people behind him up. But they're already falling off a little bit because of the tire usage, and their cars aren't great, so really no reason for me to have to do that. Plus, once DRS kicks in, the drivers will basically just be towing each other down the map, so. But yeah, it's just tough. I mean, it's a massive straightaway here. And that is the strength, as we've learned in F1 this year, of the Williams race car. So it's just very tough for us to challenge them on that. Oh yeah, should click that on. I keep being dumb about that tactic of allowing them to use ERS to battle their competition. It's your world. Alright, Norris has worked his way up to 13th. And like I said, that's kind of like the cool thing about the sprint weekend concept, at least in this particular example. Because, you know, we qualified poorly. For whatever reason, Norris was like 16th, got eliminated in Q1. And he also had a 5-place grid penalty from changing out his ERS, which meant he started in like 19th or whatever the hell it was. And there were some other penalties and things, so he wasn't all the way that far back. But he's got himself up like 3 or 4 positions now. And this race determines the order of the actual race. So he's put himself in a really good position to be able to have a good starting point for the race. And the race is supposed to be rainy, which means he has a really good chance to take advantage of that strategy. Or some safety cars, yellow flags, things like that. So Norris is also within a second of Gasly, so we might be able to hit 12th place if we're smart. Let's see if we can get him on these turns, but if not, throw some boosts on the long straights and help them defend that position. Last lap, can he keep that position? Looks like he can.
Alonso has done it! Fernando Alonso is today's Grand Prix winner.
Hello, pervert.
Good job, that's a checkered flag.
So he almost got P11, but
Today's sprint has left Alex Albon without any points.
At the end of that, it's a 15th place finish.
right, so Alonso started first, ended first. Checo got up into second, Max went down to third. As far as things that impact us, Oh, I see. He doesn't serve the penalty until the start of the race, so it was great that we gained 4 fucking positions because we're about to lose 5 of them. But yeah, we're going to start ahead of Pierre Gasly, which is crucial, and we'll be right behind probably Hulkenberg. So we'll be sandwiched in between some of our closest competition. And Albon will actually have a pretty decent starting position after those penalties are applied.
It's race day.
It is race day. Okay. Yeah, so he's going to start 10 grid place. Holy fuck balls. 19th. Jesus Christ. Alright, we're going to try a one-stepper here. Mediums onto softs. And we'll flip it around for Albon, because he is starting higher up the grid. So actually, I think what I want to do, because I forgot it's going to be a rainy one. So you can see that the rain is most likely going to start around here. So if I start him on a medium instead, I can switch on to, we can plan for switching on inters right about there, lap 27, when the rain is most likely going to start. Although it could be as late as lap 28 before the track's wet enough for that. It's supposed to be heavy rain, so it might get up to full wets, but let's plan on inters for now, and we'll go back over to Norris's strategy. And we already had the lap right, we just got to change the tire. So now we have this plan in action, incorporating the weather changes, which is obviously what would every team would do in real life, but kind of gives you that nice advantage. And like we were talking about, start them aggressively. Let's get into it.
We've got 44 laps ahead of us here in Spa as we get ready for the Belgian Grand Prix. As we get to this race, our focus shifts to Valtteri Bottas.
It's a P17 grid start for them in this race, but maybe.
Get ready, it's the Belgian Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
Oops. Let's get their tactics right off the bat with the curbs. No reason to watch all that right now. So the one advantage we'll have over all the teams that started on soft is that they're gonna have to pit on those softs before the rain hits, which means they will have 2 stops by the time the rain comes. Buddy, every time. I don't know what it is about that button. Maybe it's because last year you didn't have it or whatnot. I don't know. But I appreciate you calling me out on that. Yeah, 1 lap in. I'm on neutral. Got 2 laps on fuel and tire. Well, we used to do 2 laps on tire, but now we can pretty much run permanent attack. We'll see what happens. It's very weird for me to have Albano running in front. He's nowhere near the pace usually of Norris. It's just kind of an oddity. So yeah, let's see if this one-stopper strategy works here. It's supposed to rain right about where we anticipated that change to inters. You might have to give some team orders here with how fast fucking Norris is going compared to Albon. Norris is flying through the field. So he's going to make short work of Piastri there. We'll watch the delta between those two and see if we have to. He's hovering around 2-3. He's losing a little bit each lap, but nothing crazy. So he gets down to... Oh, he's got DRS on Tsunoda now. And he didn't fucking pass. Oh, he got him. Thank God. I'm like, bruh, in 2023, if you can't pass an AlphaTauri, I don't know what you're doing. So about halfway to the rain. Please get Tsunoda, bro. You're just embarrassing yourself at this point. Supposed to be my number one driver. Tsunoda no longer has DRS, so it should be a little easier for Lando. Thank you. He needed to make that move like 3 laps ago. Overtake aggression? Sometimes. It depends. I mean, I should have probably put it on him there, but with a wet weather race coming up, I don't want to risk anything. Alright, I'm gonna, for the first time this season, I think, give some team orders. Swap positions there. Don't lose too much time. You don't want Tsunoda to come back at you. Yeah, no, I really don't, though. I mean, again, I just try to think, like, really big picture. I think if, like, I really wanted to dial in on, like, one race, maximize, like, potential for points, or, God forbid, in a season or two, maybe a chance at a win, like, yes, like, on a lap-by-lap basis, even a turn-by-turn basis, you can dial in these things to make even more sense, like they would do in real life, you know, use the RS here, back off it there, drive in clean air there, get right on his ass there. Like, you can do all those things, and I've seen plenty of streamers and highlight videos and stuff where people manage that intently on their drivers, and I'm just like, for me, these strategy simulator, like, they've always been a little bit bigger picture. It's about the overall, like, on a given weekend, yes, there is good strategy, good teamwork, good pit stops, but it's just about drivers going out and doing their thing with the tools you've given them. And that's where I'm like, yeah, I could instruct him to do those things, but I kind of just want to let them do their thing. But that's just my approach. It's not really a wrong way to do it, especially if you're getting the results. And I probably could be getting even stronger results.
Light rain on the road.
You know, if I did some of those things, but it's just too much for me. And let's just call a spade, brother. Most of the time I'm playing F1 Manager, it's like 9 o'clock at night. I'm high as a fucking kite. Lights dimmed, you know, neon RGB, like, I'm just in my zone. And I'm literally only big picture at that point. You know, I can't think turn by turn, like, I'm going to miss it. Blink if you miss it kind of thing. So for me, it's just that kind of thing, right? Where I just hang out, like, and just enjoy it. It's like that's why these types of games for me. And I was talking with Dr. Coco the other day, that she, like, you know, like, this game could also be on my chill Sunday, like, cozy stream day, because Like for me, that's kind of the way I approach some of these, even though like this can be a hectic, like you could spend an hour on a race kind of thing. And for me, like you've seen, this is like the third or fourth race I've done already this stream. That's the way I like to play. I love the storytelling aspect of it, the role play aspect of it, the narrative, like that stuff is where my like head and heart kind of line up on games like this. So 3 minutes, 50% chance of rain. Still a few laps early if that hits, but that's okay. But yeah, I remember when 22 came out, and I think we talked about it a little bit last time you popped in when I was playing F1 Manager. There were people, and we talked about it a second ago, like you can watch people, like they will literally manage the race on a lap to lap, turn to turn, straightaway to straightaway basis. And it's so cool to me that Frontier and the way this game is designed,
A little bit of rain.
you can do that.
Okay, understood.
Right? Like, you can do that. If I wanted to, I could do that. And I have the ability to go hard sim. Alright, so what I need to do here is crank everything. I think I'm going to have him go one more lap on slicks because we're not approaching inter territory yet. And we'll try a double stack on the inters for our team here. And there's 3.6 seconds between them, so... So yeah, that's the thing. You got your fingers crossed. We don't want to get over one with a lot of track left on this lap, because then they'll probably crash. But I think we got to the pits about as close to exact on track turnaround as we could have. Yeah, Albon, 8-second stop. Did he have a double stack issue, or is this a skill
McLaren's
issue?
team get called into action. But they run into trouble, and it holds up their stop.
Dude, that double stack would have looked fucking beautiful on a highlight reel, and then that happened. Fuck me. Alright, so now we're on the outlap, warming up our inters, such as it is. Yeah, there's one dude I've been watching who does that, which is cool. I don't think I have the patience for that 100% of the time. No, and like I said, for me, especially where I'm at with this car development, we're on like the up and up with this team, and I think like there will be like a transitory period where I'll want to pay a lot more attention to each individual race like that. I think that there will come a point where that makes sense for me, where I have a chance to lock down a podium if I control that aggressively, or a chance for a win or something like that down the road. It's going to be cool to kind of do that. But when I'm at the point where like my best result is like P8 maybe, and that was like a pipe dream race, like, yeah, as long as I can just avoid big calamity issues right now and pip the occasional point off somebody and stay above 7th position in the constructors, I've done what I need to do. And that's why I said, like, for me, it's all about the narrative, about the role playing. It's about telling that story of a guy coming in, McLaren at a really bad point in their development cycle, and turning them into something that can be a podium contender. So as long as the tires don't overheat, which is the worry, I can blend these guys on aggressive or attack for pretty much the whole race. We know they're not going to lose tire usage. But the only thing that would really screw us up is if they get too hot or too cold. Then they'd be more prone to making a mistake in the wet weather. But I'm going to try to find that fine line with these guys where I'm running them as hard as I can without them crashing. You can see the skill differential that the game gives some of these drivers. Like, again, same car. The only thing that's really different that it's kind of wet out there. And Alex went from... Well, actually, you know, he was 3 seconds behind. He had an 8-second stop, so it's about right where he should be. But he's losing time every lap to Lando. Norris is actually going to put himself in a position here to try and snipe 11th off of Ocon. Oh, Ocon locked up, so we got that position for free. He'd need a hell of a run here for a few laps to close that gap on Hulkenberg. Not sure that he can pull it off. We'll see. Good race so far. I mean, legitimately, Norris started in 19th position after a grid penalty and changing the ERS. Oh, the other thing to look at too is that it says the tire temperatures are too hot in this view, but when you actually come into it, sometimes it's only like one tire. But we're battling between attack and aggressive right now. Probably need to rein in their fuel usage as well.
Lando, how is the track and how's the pace?
Some places almost a dry line. Yeah, I think I'm ready.
I don't think we're ready, buddy. I don't know about that. That's a tough one. Like, it's drying, but it's going to get wet again. And honestly, I don't even think the AI would consider coming in with that few laps to go and rain on the forecast still. But I was really hoping we could try and get a point out of this race. Alex disappointed and had a bad... Then the team gave him a really bad pit stop. Norris has been sensational today, but not enough to get up into the points. Maybe. Could always fingers crossed Hulkenberg fucked something up here. Every time I see a little yellow flag, I'm like, who was it? Was it Hulkenberg? I know the tires are too hot, bro. Alright, let's see what we got here.
Looks like the grade's clearing up.
Yeah, confirm.
Too little, too late. Let's run these aggressively before the track dries, because then the tires will overheat way too quickly. There's really no reason for any of them to be pushing, in all fairness, but... if a mistake happens in front of me, I'd like to be able to capitalize. Well, that's another frustrating race where we got so close, but so far to getting another point. And it really sucks to see Haas getting points, man. Especially good points, 8 and 10. Those are good points compared to what we're going to be taking in. They're going to get closer to taking back 6th place, I should say. Doesn't look like we're going to have a chance there. So let's put them on neutral, make sure they get across the line without issue. No crashing. It's the only thing I'm asking right now.
Alonso has done it! Fernando Alonso is today's Grand Prix winner.
Let's go, Fernando. First race win in how long? He's been on the podium this year, but he hasn't won. That's incredible. Alright, so 11 and 14
That is the checkered flag.
out of 12 and 19, but the drivers flipped. So, interesting race, to say the least.
A really strong drive from Sergio Perez there.
That was an excellent performance. They set
Second
out
position
with
by
a
less than a
great strategy,
second,
and
dude.
it paid off with an impressive podium finish.
But just look at this.
Alright, so Fernando on top for the first time in a very long time. The old head. Sergio started in second stage second. Stroll up one, Leclerc up one, Carlos down two. Max with a decent recovery, but not good enough. Hulkenberg somehow gaining 6, Lando gaining 8. And of course, Alex losing 2 spots. Kind of sucks, but. The drivers' race, Sergio and Carlos swap for P3. And Nico overtakes Yuki for 14th, who's hot on Alex's heels. Kevin gets 1 point closer to overtaking Lando, unfortunately. And in the teams, we lost 6 spots to Haas, who had a nice haul of points today. That is how close we were to them, unfortunately. But another race weekend like that going the other direction will very clearly change that in our favor. But yeah, we lost a position there in the race. That sucked. 7th is our goal, though, and we have that pretty firmly in hand over Williams right now, so it's not necessarily panic time. Lando with the fastest pit stop. Albon's was nowhere close, so we're still P2 in that. Yeah, 8 seconds, this motherfucker. Car release, yet again, was the problem. Should probably get our reserve driver back on track, but both of these guys are fairly young and decently good, so I'm not going to lose sleep over the reserve. Alright, so very interesting race, and very cool to see Fernando come out on top yet again. So mid-season board review, unfortunately we couldn't be ahead of their target, but we're on target to finish 7th. Long-term objection is to score podiums in a quarter of a season. But we got 4 seasons for that one, and hopefully, we can stay on track, because we've had some good momentum. The board confidence is high, thankfully. Alright, so we had the side pods and the underfloor manufacturing processes are done. Car inspection, only 1 part failed. So here, I would actually like to go through the warehouse view, because you get to look at all of your parts. So this one's already in process. We're going to make 3 more, so we don't need to panic about the quantity right now for that. Front wing, we only have 5. And again, these parts break down, and we're not developing any new parts for this year, so I'm going to make like 3 more of these, because they're also the most prone to break on a crash. We can rush that. The cost differential is not that crazy, but we want to make sure we have enough of those to finish the season. Rear wing, same thing. We have 6 of them, thankfully, so we got a little bit of extra wiggle room there. Same with the side pods. I learned my lesson early on with some of the parts I developed, so now I just make more of them to start. The problem is, though, when your parts fail after their durability is wearing down, you're not allowed to slide back to old ones, so you need to keep the newest one constantly stocked. The underfloor, we only have 5. I might produce an extra one of those. Takes 5 days. And then the suspension. See, this is the problem. I should be making more of those, and I've already filled out my spots. The solution to that is a long-term one, and it's pricey, but I would have to go to facilities, car development, and upgrade the factory so I can have... Actually, it doesn't even. Oh, it does. It does improve. Okay. So I get one extra manufacturing slot if I raise that. Costs 11 million. We may be able to do that towards the end of the season or at the start of next, with the amount of money we'll have. And then another target down the road would also be upgrading the design center. It won't change my design capacity with the next update, but presumably when I get it to level 4, we'll get another design slot so we can research and design more things at once. You do want to stay up on your facilities, though, because they have boosts sometimes to team attractiveness, which just makes it easier to sign stronger staff members or drivers. Sometimes it affects... race confidence gain in you for like the board may save you from getting fired if you start sucking at one point. The staff ones, especially the team hub, increases morale for the staff and drivers, and also increases XP gain for your staff. Same thing with the race simulator. The race simulator increases XP gain weekly for your drivers, especially if you have a young team. When you upgrade this early, you can really capitalize on getting a lot of extra XP out of these guys. So calendar-wise, much like in real life, we just hit the start of summer break. So all we have to focus on now is taking care of big picture things. And that's no problem. So we finished those manufacturing. We started a couple other. This is going to give us a really good chance to catch up on some of the behind-the-scenes things that maybe we're falling apart on. Like I said earlier, I'm not developing any new parts, so this year's car is not going to get any racier. Where's the next ATR period start? In about a month. So I don't know if I'm going to do any more research for now, because the gains out of them will be marginal for how long they'll take. Okay, this is interesting. I haven't gotten this far into a season yet. So, July in Formula One. Tech Insights Ferrari. Rumor mills focused on Ferrari after they unveiled a new underfloor design. Tech experts speculating it's one of the best on the grid right now. And then a little fake interview with Frederick Vasseur. Talking about that. That's kind of cool to see. Spotlight on Haas. We spoke with Gunther Steiner, team principal of Haas, this month about the season. Could be going better, but we are where we expected to be at this point in the year. That's all down to our engineers building a great car and our drivers piloting it. Currently 6th in the championship, with Magnussen in 12th and Nico in 14th. Overall standings, top 3, Red Bull, Ferrari, Aston. Unsurprisingly, based on the start of the season ratings that these guys had. And you got Max, Leclerc, Perez, which again is not a totally unsurprising result, all things considered either. All right, let's just let the clock run a little bit. What's car building? Rapid car assembly, changing car parts in the garage. Yeah. I guess we'll just focus on pit stop time as a whole. It doesn't look like it's going to over fatigue our drivers, so. Problem is they got really fatigued. They were one of the best pit crews in the entire F1 at the start of this, and then they got really fatigued, and I had to back off their training a little bit, and that has slowed them down some. Sponsoring Dino Beganovic. We've identified a promising talent in F3 who could really benefit from some sponsorship. This is cool. This stuff does not pop up in Manager 22. I've attached their profile below, and if you agree they have potential, I think we should become a financial sponsor and bring them into the race sim for some training. So let's sponsor Dino. So he's 19, Dino. Kind of want to flag him for down the road. So he's 19, right? Let's give him a detailed scouting. Might be someone worth taking on as our reserve in a year or so. I got one guy scouted right now. Want to make sure you're using your scouting slots or some potential drivers down the road. Just what we got down here. Sophia. Can't scout her. I don't have any more scouts. Should keep an eye on her, though. She's very talented. At least in real life. Give her a 54 fucking rating here. I can only bookmark 5 people. I guess I don't need to bookmark them if I've already scouted them. Helipad got refurbished because it was in bad shape. Couple of these manufacturing projects will be done here. So like we were talking about. Yeah, you'll notice like I only have 4 slots for research, but I had 5 or 6 things going before, and that was another really cool thing about this game is that it gave me an opportunity to invest a little bit of money, but one of my like advisors or heads of departments or something sent me an email and was like, hey, I think I found a way to boost production for this design center. With this investment, I can make it so you have 2 extra slots and like 5 extra engineers or something. Which was just fucking crazy, right? Yeah, so it gave me a few extra slots, it gave me a few extra engineers, and it just allowed me the chance to do a little extra development and research at a time where my facilities aren't there to actually allow that. So it was just like really cool. Just a totally unique thing that didn't happen in the previous game. So I thought that was really nice. So once again, we were talking about we might need to produce a couple extra parts just to survive the season. So again, we only have 3 chassis, and 2 of them are on my cars. So the project's already in. That one's already done or involved. It's got 2 more coming. So we'll have a total of 5. I may even make more than that, to be honest with you. Front wing, we got 8 total. Rear wing 6 total. Side pod 6 total. Underfloor 6 total. Suspension only 3. So that's the one where we'll make like 4. Rush it. 5 days for each one, so it'll take 20 days total. We're still in the break, so we don't have a race right away anyways. So that should be fine. We can double check the powertrain on each of these guys and make sure that we're where we want to be. I might just bite the bullet on Albon right now and swap that out. And the one thing you could be mindful of too is, like, if I'm not mistaken, you could use this 43% ERS for the practice sessions, and then when it comes time for quali, just pop that new one in there and get your better performance. I want to make sure our powertrain, we're staying up on that. These parts are all going to pass inspection. That one will get changed out on the next race. So we're in good shape for now. Let's just continue through the break. Research complete on a rear wing for next year. We're coming up on the next, like, ATR session, so we're going to get more wind hours and things like that. Bad parts for practice. I got to get in the habit of doing that more. You're using that system a lot better than I am right now. Like, I know it exists. It's just one of those things, again, like, there's only so many things your brain can, like, competently control at once, and one of them, for me, that kind of falls short is the, is that aspect of it, right? Like, I know that I can do that, I just forget to do it. So that's something we'll try on the next race weekend, I think, is we'll just keep the old parts on and put in better ones. So we're about 2 weeks away from the next race. We got some more manufacturing and research that'll wrap up. We're going to hold off on any new research solely because once this research period ends here, another one will start the day after, and we'll get more wind tunnel hours and things like that to develop better parts. The ones that I could develop right now would still take about a month to complete, and they would have marginal gains because there's no testing hours behind them. The front wing research is done as well. Now we're just, like I said earlier on in the stream, we're just cranking out research on parts to help next year's car. I'm done with this year. It's not going to be an overly competitive season for us. I've done enough development to keep us in a good position for 7th or above, like the board want to see, but focusing on getting a little bit speedier of a car for next season. And hopefully I can invest in maybe another improvement in design or manufacturing center and crank out some parts at this part of next season, and stay up with the trends. But I'll probably be on a 3-year cycle, in my head canon at least right now, where it'll be a little bit of design, heavy research, help the next year's car, but then loop that cycle again so that the 3rd year's car is incredibly competitive. In those first 2 years, you sacrifice a little bit of. That's kind of where I want to go with this, but it's really going to depend on how next year's car comes out of the gate, because if it has a chance to earn really solid points, it may be worth it to not do as crazy research for that 3rd year, but start cashing in and developing in a lot of your facilities and things. So let's see where we're at. We are here. The next race is coming up. The last 2 research projects will be done there. And I think our manufacturing might even be done by that race weekend as well, so. But if we do go and look at the research of new car parts, you can see it'll show you the amount of times they've already researched that part for next season. We've already done 2 research projects on chassis, 2 on the front wing, only 1 on the rear wing, 3 on the side pods, and that's how I know that we only get marginal gain on researching a part without testing hours, because the 3rd one was done without testing hours, and that last gain was very, very marginal. Underfloor's had 2, and the suspension is 1. So when the next cycle comes around, I'm going to want to make sure to get the suspension and the rear wing, so there's at least 2 done on all of them. And then I'll probably jump in with a front wing, because it's the other one with a minor technical change for the next season. And make that one of the 3. And then for me, probably do underfloor, which is a crucial part as well. Those will probably be the 4 that I focus on once the next testing period opens up. And the chassis project was done, but I might actually start another one. There's still 5. Maybe I'll hold off for another week or 2. Alright, so... just double checking. I think we have all the newest parts installed. Powertrain wise, why don't we swap out for some used parts for practice. Actually could be really a nice way to help avoid it, or at least minimize the amount of parts you're going to go through. Car 2, same thing, let's put in a worse engine. So let's load up on some bad parts, which just sounds silly to say. Performance targets, reach Q3? Doubt it. Very much doubt that. But on my own end, I think at least 14th, and I think at least Q2. I do think we can finish in 14th in the race, and we already have the streak targets picked. Let's see how this goes.
Hello, and a very warm welcome as we prepare for the Dutch Grand Prix. We're back from the summer break with topped-up tans. Vacation, though, is now over, and it's time to get serious on the track for the second half.
I was going to say, the weather looks a little bleak here, boys. But at least race day will be clear. Alright, so why don't we give Palou a little bit of a time in the car. And let's see what kind of setup we got for Zandvoort. 9.5, 13.5, 6.4, 3.15, and 9. And okay. So driver swapped out, setup is tested, practice. Let's just simulate right to qualifying. Hopefully Alex doesn't crash the car on us. Confidence is pretty good. Right where it should be, even with the reserve driver swap out for P1.
Qualifying is coming up.
Alright, qualifying. So now is when we gotta look at changing these back. And a reminder, 2 flying laps in this game, for whatever reason, significantly more powerful than doing 1. Sure, we got our best parts on. Two flyers. Do something wild this time. Let's actually qualify. Let's just do it, you know?
Track should be green now.
Yeah, we'll try and take advantage of a green track here. Get about 3 seconds behind. We'll send our other driver. Now again, I don't typically take any manual control of them when I do run qualifying sessions. But I do pray to Nawe or whatever deity you want to pray to that they actually have a clean flyer with no traffic. Because sometimes you send them out right at the beginning thinking no one's going to be out there, and then you get the human missile George Russell in front of you or some shit slowing you down. And then, see, that's the distinction. You'll note that because they're doing 2 flyers instead of saying in-lap, now they have another out-lap trying to get their tires in the right spot, and they're going to take their second flyer, which again, for whatever reason in this game, just seems significantly more powerful than doing 1 flyer. Solid laps right out the gate, so obviously the track will improve with a little bit of grip in a while. And they'll take their in-laps. And we can reconfigure. Setup's good, run plan. See if I can avoid the glitch. For 2 of them not registering, because it just happens sometimes. We were talking early, Tea Party, but sometimes they just don't register that you want to run 2 laps. So I got the car set up for another 2-lap flyer. Wait for some of this traffic. And send them out again. And we'll have the same plan. 2 flyers. So outlap, flying lap, outlap, flying lap. Yeah, okay with traffic. Magnussen in the way a little bit. Alright, we got 1 more flyer. Hopefully Magnussen didn't hold us up too hard there.
Lando, we're currently 11th.
It's a reasonable position for us to be.
Pull the car.
Confirm.
And I should have enough time to send him out for another rip. Why can't I send him out? Like, what did I do wrong here? Okay. I never got that one. I always have that problem at the end of qualifying sessions when I have when I'm actually managing them, where it just like I reconfigure them and it just doesn't want to send them out.
That's the checkered flag.
I find that if I try and change the run plan to something other than what I originally set, I can't send them out. Yeah, right. But for whatever reason, what seemed to fix it this time was me telling them to not include a qualifying lap, because I think it was assuming that there wasn't enough time for my program, even to exclude a cooldown lap, because I think it was including that in the estimated time, and the estimated time would have taken longer than what the session had left. I need Bottas to not have a good lap. You fucker. Well, he knocked out fucking Albon right at the end. At least we had a little excitement, right? Albon's got a penalty anyways, and I'm pretty sure it's a 10-placer, so it wouldn't have mattered in the slightest. Pretty sure it's a 10-place penalty for ERS change, so... Sucks. Lando, by the hair on his chinny chin, got into Q2. So let's run it again. With just Lando this time.
Track should be green.
Alright, let's see if it's still green when he comes around. I don't know. Should be. Yeah, nice open track. What?
Drive to the Delta. And we are boxes lap.
Cool.
Nah, almost a whole second for stepping on one lap. Jesus Christ. Just turn on and off a couple changes and see if it works. Orlando, see if we get some green track here. Yes, yes.
We're currently P5.
That was a hell of a lap from Lando there. Like, I know the track will probably get a little better, but god damn. Oh, let's see. I think I see what happened here.
It's the checkered flag.
We didn't actually take it, bro. Do your job better. He's 6. Let's fucking go. God damn, bro. Unbelievable. First Q3 I think I've ever gotten with this save file. I think that's what I was doing. Is I was doing a cooldown lap in between, and I think that like he immediately went faster with me eliminating that. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. I gotta run Q3 if it's the first time I've ever been in it, right? Like that's just a thing.
Track should be green.
Please, no more. Damn it. I was holding up for Verstappen for an entire lap. Hell yeah. I mean, I don't think it helped me any, but it definitely didn't help him. Right, reconfigure. Let's go. Fingers crossed. No cars appear out of the pits. Yes. They're all going to come out now, but... Is that really all you got in you, bro? Let's go. I don't know if he'll keep that, but that's nuts, boys. Let's go. Oh, he's already not keeping it. Nothing I can do now but watch myself fall back down. But that was a hell of a lap. I'll take P7. I'll take P7. That was a hell of a qualifying by Lando. His driver confidence said peak, and in the time that I've been playing Manager 23, like, I've never seen that. So he was on one, man. Some days you just are.
The excitement is building. There's electricity in the air.
There sure is, buddy.
Surprise in that. It's race day.
Zandvoort's highly banked corners make it one of the more unusual Grand Prix circuits. Dutch driver Max Verstappen won with a dominant lead here in 2021, driving the home fans to a frenzy as he did.
Lewis there, getting himself ready for today's
Yeah, that crowd
race.
was nuts at Zandvoort in 21. Holy shit. That's when they started, like, cracking down on, like, the use of the orange flares and stuff. They were bonkers that year. So we got a guy in P7 and a guy in P20. You really just don't want Lando to fuck this up, man. Time to save. I know. Alright, Elban. I think he can do this because of that exploit with the curbs. I think we can actually get away with that. I normally wouldn't dream of implementing a strategy where the margins are that fine. And this would just be a straight up aggressive strategy. Let's fine tune that a little bit. Make sure we get them starting out aggressively. Alright, Dutch Grand Prix, best starting position we've had.
Get
Let's
ready
go.
for some fighting between the sand dunes here at the Dutch Grand Prix. Now I wonder, will things be going Lando Norris's way in this race?
They've done really well to secure a P7 start. Some solid points could be on the cards today.
Gotta hope so.
So let's see what today has in store, shall we? The drivers are ready and the crowds are waiting. It's the Dutch Grand Prix. And it's lights out and away we go.
Alright, so two things to remember. So we always forget. I don't think I've ever heard someone remix Reminiscing by Little River Band before, but okay. With the moaning, nonetheless. Alright, avoid the high-risk curbs. ERS, assist in battle. These guys are queued up. And we already lost a spot. And we got it back. And we lost it. For some reason, the Haas, man, I don't know why they think it's better than this car, but it certainly isn't in real life. Let's get them back on their settings and let's let them ride. What happened?
And yes we have. We've had a crash. What happened there?
Oh, Piastri. And then he stopped everybody behind you, you fucking bozo. Yeah, he held everybody up. That's nuts. Chiquito, get it done, my friend. Love to see another Sergio win. That's my guy. I hate to admit it this season because he's been in such bad form, but big Sergio fan. Making it very hard this season, admittedly, but Albon, let's go. Carve through that field, buddy. You got this. Norris and Hamilton battling for P8 is the fight of the century right now. That's an exciting battle. Alright, what... 6 laps till the pit window. So that exploit, and I just want to put it in perspective if anyone's still paying attention here, but the exploit for using drive, avoid high danger curbs, or whatever that button says, is so OP that Hamilton started the race on a set of mediums, and I started on a set of softs. And I have 4% more tire life than he does on a weaker tire. Just to put that exploit into perspective here. And how powerful that is when it comes to racing. Not really going to help you with anything other than race pace, but... It's absolutely bonkers. I can't think. It's almost it's hard to fathom that like again, just putting in perspective, a really good tip for this game: using the command on the driver tactic, avoid high risk curbs, allows you such dramatic increase in tire life for some reason, particularly with the soft tires more than any other tire. But I have run this entire race on attack mode. Highest tire usage, and I'm still way above my delta. And then to put it in further perspective again, Hamilton, who's one position behind me, started on a medium and has 4% less tire life than I do. It's absolutely bonkers how effective that technique is right now. Alright, pit window. I think what I'm going to do, because this tactic is so powerful, especially on this track right now, is I'm going to extend towards the end of my window this stint on the softs, and then I'm also going to undercut on the mediums, so I'll have a maximum short tire lifespan in this race. That'll be my technique for Norris in this race. I'm attempting a one-stopper with Albon, and depending on how long he can go on the mediums, maybe he'll one-stop medium soft, which isn't going to be competitive compared to the front runners, but it might do a wonder against some of these midfield runners. See. But we're in the pit window with Norris. We should be able to extend this overcut territory. See, I don't know. I mean, overcut is the least likely of any tactic to be effective, but I think it's really going to be effective on this track. Let's see. We're in the fuck around stage, and we're going to be in the find out stage soon enough. Pit window for me was 19 to 25. Go a few more laps, I think. So who's pitted around me? Sainz and Stroll. What was their last laps like? 0.3 in 1 sec. Stroll was a second faster. Alright, let's pit. Let's pit on this lap. This lap, going on to the mediums. Confirm. Coming out in 12th. Alright, let's harvest that. Normal fuel usage. It's gaining. That Mercedes is definitely better than our McLaren. Oh, yeah, that's right. I had harvest on for like one too many laps, too. That didn't help anything. Alright, Albon's coming up on his window. Try to extend medium stint a little bit so the hards don't have to go as long. As far as pit strategy goes, we undercut Hamilton, but he's going to take us. He's only 3/10 behind us. But I think our strategy long term is going to work out really well. What the hell? We don't need to pit again, but I'd like to be aggressive. All right, so mid-race strategy change because for some reason it got overridden on Norris. Oh, because we pitted after the pit window ended, so it assumed we were changing strategy, even though we were just going slightly longer. Basically, it would have been plan A plus 1 or 2 if we were using real life lingo. Albon's in his window, so let's switch over the viewpoint to him real quick. His optimal would be 34, which is this lap. So let's use this as a warm-up lap.
Now is that Yuki Tsunoda?
Oh no. Yuki. Oh no.
Good job.
Yeah, he did. Alright, where's Albon? So he's on a warm-up lap, so what we'll do is we'll hit the final speedy section. Deploy. And let's call him in. Second fastest stop today. There's another round of stops though coming, so
Pack is low. Okay.
Albon, back marker, harvest for a lap, put that in normal fuel usage, keep your tires high. Neutral that, and aggressive tires all the way through, buddy. Now, Norris.
What are we thinking about tyres here?
Try to do something aggressive here. So we got a virtual safety car. I call Norris in for some softs. I think he can take them all the way.
VSC deployed. Drive to the Delta.
Yeah, confirm.
Alonso crashed on turn 1. What happened, buddy? You won last race. You duffed it here. Lock up.
Yeah.
Sounded like Lance Stroll's audio, not Fernando's, but... Norris in and out, second fastest pit stop. Okay, see when the VSC is going to end. And then we'll go a little bit aggressive on some of the other settings. When does the VSC end? Safety car ending.
Virtual safety car ending.
Copy.
Here we go. Push that fuel, boys and girls. Tires are cold. Yeah, I'm really wondering if these tires are going to make it to the end. That might not have been a good call. Most of these people are going to stop, though, and that's a huge advantage for us. Boom, boom. Get real close. Boom, boom, boom.
And recharge on now is okay, please.
Yeah, confirm.
Yeah, it's kind of just fingers crossed he can make it.
I have no grip.
It's true. He has no grip.
Just drifting everywhere now.
Oh man. Yeah, I think I fucked up with the strategy on Norris, to be honest with you. He started in P7, and he lost 5 places down at P12.
Max Verstappen over the finish line and today's winner.
Should have stayed out, got track position, and pitted with everyone else a little later on.
The best we could have done.
Yeah, well done everyone.
But
That is the checkered flag, so we are...
you live and you
boxes
learn.
up.
Had a chance for some good
after the
points,
checkered
and
flag
I
has
blew
flown,
it. Can't blame
there's
anyone
Nico
else
Hülkenberg.
or the game.
And no doubt, Verstappen fans will be celebrating the Dutchman's achievement.
Verstappen gaining 2 places to win his home Grand Prix, and still beating his teammate by 31 seconds. Also very realistic. Aston Martin on the podium again. Lando getting pushed down into 12th by Magnussen, who had 8 points. And us falling further behind them in P7 still. But at least we're still at our target for the year. We had the 3rd and 4th fastest pit stops. Pretty much guaranteed P2 in that championship now. But we hit our targets, and we made another 4.6 mil this weekend. So, hard to be mad about that. Albon's overall rating goes up. Alright, so we failed a couple of parts, front wing and side pods, which, if I'm not mistaken, we have plenty of bolts. So I think we're good there. Let's just get those swapped. Side. It's 5 left. Let's manufacture a couple of those. Yeah, we won't rush that one. No reason to. So calendar-wise, gotta get through next race weekend, then we get more testing time, so we can fire back up research for next year's car, make some stronger parts, which is really gonna be our main goal right now. Yeah, let's get her through this last race weekend, and then we'll fire up a bunch of research for next year, and that'll be our big target there. So for the race weekend, let's see if we can do what we did last weekend and put some worse parts on to save life on newer ones. We didn't start this strategy soon enough in the season for it to really pay dividends, unfortunately, but it's never too late to start doing it. So you put the worn down parts on for practice, and then you put the better ones on when it comes time for the qualifying and the racing. Okay, so we got the cars equipped with parts. Oh, look. Got some scouting done. So what we're trying to do is flag some potential reserve drivers for the future, but you really want to see them with a development rate that's high. So, let's see. Scouted Derubla, we scouted Dino. Dino was the one that they suggested we sponsor, which again I thought was a really cool mechanic change from last year, where this time around we're actually taking early on investment opportunity in drivers. It was prompted by Asma actually to as like an event, like a response required type thing a few weeks ago that we sponsor him. So it actually aided in his development. Now we did a little bit of scouting on him, so we know his development rate is high. He's not old enough, or has enough experience yet to race in F1. But he's got an overall rating of 64, which is not bad for someone his age. He's got a high development rate. So he's someone to keep an eye on. Okay, so what else? And there was one other driver we scouted. Right? No, just the two. So our drivers got a little bit better over that last week as well. The board still has high confidence in me. Car development-wise, you can see that we have actually dropped backwards, which was somewhat, again, intentional. Strong start to the season. Develop some new parts, but then shift all the focus to next year where we can really make a difference. Alright, so race prep. That's the last thing we got to do before we race. Got to reach our targets. So I think, again, 14th and Q2 is a solid goal for us. Same thing, race target, 14th would be good. And achievable. And I think we could qualify in 15th for at least 5 races. Yeah, 3 races now, actually, that changed. So I think we could do that, yes. So we got all those picked. Got the old parts on the car for practice session. We want to look at our So even if we go to balance, they're going to teeter around being tired, but I think we got to risk it. Just stay competitive here. So we picked our pit crew focus for the next month, because it is, after all, the first of the month. Yeah. Let's fire it up.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, with the Italian Grand Prix.
Not a racetrack that's going to suit our car.
To Monza.
We're not a terribly high-speed car, unfortunately. And it's also a pretty safe track, so let's swap in our reserve driver to get some experience. Alright, so 1919. Three and 0.9. Okay. Same thing, 1, 9, 0.9, 3, and point. Gonna reserve in, cars are ready. Let's simulate to qualifying. So 11th and 13th is pretty solid, actually. Drivers are going to be very confident.
Let's hope the teams took...
At this point in the session, we are just cruising along. Okay. So get us your car parts back out for the good ones. Since it is qualifying and race time, I need them to be in tip-top shape. Run plan, we want 2 laps, no cooldowns. Engine, ERS, and gearbox all swapped for race trim. Setup is not going to change 1 flying lap with no cooldown. Simulate the session. Well, they both got through. Good result, boys. Okay. We've been having a hard time with qualifying, especially with Albon, so for him to have made it to Q2 at all is incredible at this point. Alright, it's the same thing, run plan. We're going to do 2 flyers, no cooldown. For some reason, it just works better in this game. And for some reason, it doesn't like picking up on those changes unless I dick around with them. So 2 flyers, no cooldowns, everything else is staying the same. And let's see what we get this time. Probably both out. Yep, 12th and 15th is exceedingly where they should be. But it does hit our goals for our sponsors. Not in Q3, so we won't see it.
The teams
Alright. So, race day at Monza, which is always a favorite of mine. Alright, so let's talk about Albon first. No rain on the forecast, of course. So let's edit this around. We'll do a 1-stopper, but we'll switch this medium to soft. We know, and we'll talk about it again when the race starts, that we can actually extend the soft's tire life greatly. And I actually think that it should make it to the end of the race. So he'll go medium to soft as he's starting a little further behind. Norris promoted to 9th because of penalties ahead of him. And this is the flip side to what we were talking about earlier, Tea Party Man. Like, you know, there's going to be those times where you have to take that hit, switching out those parts because there's just not enough allocated for a season. But then you get races like this where he's promoted into the top 10 already, just because some of the other cars had to do the same. So strategy for Norris, we'll do the exact opposite. We'll start aggressive on the soft, we'll go medium, and we'll actually push that back a couple of laps. Can always pit early if we need to. We know we're going to get a longer stint, though. And again, AI in 23 loves to push at the beginning, and it's easy for you to fall behind early on if you don't match. So throw them on aggressive settings.
All 10 teams are now getting set up as the drivers prepare to face the 53 laps of the Italian Grand Prix. Here we are at the oldest circuit in Europe.
Let's do it.
The Italian Grand
Is that
Prix.
Chiquito on pole? Or is he 2? I can't tell.
And it's lights out, and away
Nope,
we go.
of course he wasn't. Why would I even think that? Hamilton already stole a spot off us. So remember 2 things we talked about. We want to make sure we got the ERS battle assist put on, so they're actually using it to fight their enemies instead of just defaulting towards it existing. And then again, what we were talking about with extending the tire life, if you haven't, if you just joined or weren't paying attention earlier, tactics by clicking on your driver here, avoid high risk curbs. That, for whatever reason, just gives you God mode tire life, even when you're at the most aggressive settings. And you'll see what I'm talking about in several laps. Now, again, I think big picture, so we're going to go top-down view, which is my favorite. Even though they did some amazing things with graphics in the last couple iterations of this game. Last year and this year, being the only 2 years, of course. So run lap, we went full aggressive. Now we'll dial the ERS back. We'll do another aggressive lap on fuel to try and keep up with the competition. Just easier said than done. How the fuck did Sargent get an 8th? Alright, 2 laps of fuel like that. We'll push it back to medium. It's gonna save the rest of it for our pit stop so we can push again on our in lap and out lap. And again, you'll see what I'm talking about with the tires here, but we're going to go ahead and leave our drivers in aggressive. We got the ERS battle assist if they need it, and the tactics, we have them assigned to avoid high-risk curbs. For that, we'll just enjoy the race, and we'll see what happens on the overall timing screens with them. Hopefully Norris can keep a point, but with a charging Ferrari and Mercedes right behind him, probably going to be very tricky for him, unfortunately. He does seem to be moving up the field, which is surprising. We had a really good opportunity with him last race, starting in P7, but we fucked the strategy, trying to be a little bit too clever for our own good. And it hurt him. Gasly. What happened to Gasly?
Now what's happened with Gasly there?
Oh, I could ban it too. Gasly, I just watching him fall back and back and back and back.
Back in the garage.
And I was really curious what happened to him. Because he also has a penalty, so for some reason they also deemed him to be at fault. That's a free point position for us, as long as we can keep it. Typically running them at normal fuel usage is enough for them to recover some fuel per lap, actually, but... Another crash? What happened?
We've got a yellow flag here.
He's right on him. Hulkenberg, 5 seconds for whatever roll he had and whatever crash that was. But you can see, even on this track, we're about 10 laps in now. Oh, 8 laps in, 9 laps in. And you can see, like, the tires aren't overheating even on attack. And they're actually exceeding the delta on usage, which means we'll go longer than expected. It's just OP right now to put them on the avoid high-risk curbs, and you can extend their life pretty aggressively, actually. And that's the other thing, you know, again, if you want a good real-world example, just like we talked about with last race, look at all the drivers around us who started on mediums, which are a more resistant tire, actually have tire usage equal to or worse than ours, even though we're on softs. And the drivers on hard actually aren't even that far behind us, so... Ready? Hi, buddy. But you can see we're exceeding the delta by such a degree now that we'll actually be able to make it to where I estimated here, instead of where it said we would be, basically running on fucking nothing. It doesn't have as pronounced as effect on the medium, and it definitely doesn't work the same on the hards. But the softs can be extended by a huge amount if you use that trick. This one trick, team strategists hate him. Actually, yeah, we're a little too close to the window. I was going to deploy the ERS battery to try and pull a little bit further away from Magnussen. Just right on the cusp, being able to overtake us. He actually has worse tires. And the ones who pitted, what tires did they pick up? Hards? Almost to our pit window. Entered our pit window. Let's pit. We're gonna need to pit on this thing. Going to need to pit on this lap, that's for sure. Great stop.
Closer exit.
Truly a great stop. Came out just in front of Sargent and stayed ahead of Magnussen. Just critical. So it's attack lap. If it's attacking on the out lap, okay. Alright, so neutral on that, neutral on our fuel, keep our tires on attack for another lap. Shift our attention a little further back to Alex in P8, or no, ahead to Alex in P8. He's in his window, but it just started. Tires are starting to fall off a little bit. We know that the softs can be extended. So let's go aggressive on this lap, and we'll do a full attack on the next lap and pit them. Full send for Albano this lap. For once, we'll actually pit one of our drivers on the target lap. It's been a few races, weirdly, since we did that. Alright, we're going to go a couple laps with Norris on standard tire settings. Like I said, the impact isn't as pronounced with the high curves on that tire compound, and we want to make sure he gets to the end of the race and stays competitive on pace. So Albon in for his stop. 2192 is a great stop as well. Yeah, 5th fastest. Leave him on full send for his outlet, of course. Alright, finishing that lap. Put him back on neutral, put him back on neutral, and just like we did with Norris on the first stint, take advantage of the exploit and leave him on full attack for the soft tires, and they will see him through to the end of the race. So turn our attention back to Norris, who's still running up in the points fairly comfortably.
What an idiot.
Oh, Alex got into a crash, and he has a penalty. So
Oh dear, a crash! There's been a crash!
he has a penalty for a crash he was involved
Let's take a
in,
look
which
at the
means he was
replay.
at fault.
Now Alex Albon is part of this. Now there's an inviting opportunity there. And not just one car involved in that, as you can see.
Not sure, based on the image, that the screen just showed us that we were actually at fault there. Somehow we have no damage, but I think Gasly is going to have damage. You get a 5-second penalty, though. Well, again, turning our attention back to Norris. Alright, so gonna put him back on attack tire strategy because we know it can be sustained without losing a lot of tire wear. That should keep him competitive against Sargent and help him keep Magnussen behind. And we'll just keep an eye on the overall wear and make sure he's not falling below the delta, because if he does happen to at any point fall below that delta, he ain't making it to the end of the race. Same thing with Albon, even with his penalty, we got to keep an eye on him and make sure. And we did effectively ruin Gasly's race, which you'd never normally celebrate in the real world. There's a crash with a safety car. Question is, do I want to stay out? I tried to get fancy with the tire strategy last time. Pit Albon. Onto a new set of softs,
There's
so
a yellow flag now.
it's more than a yellow flag, my friend. There's a safety car. He also is going to serve his penalty, so
Full safety car. Delta positive.
Yeah,
I want to know who got taken out
let's
here.
try and look after the tyre temperatures now.
So put everybody on full conserve. Some of the drivers ahead of us did take advantage of a fresh pit stop. Only one on a soft, though, so we might have a chance to do something okay here. Hamilton behind us on a hard. He opted to keep track position and not pit. Drano. Alright, let's speed this up. I know it's fully charged. You don't need to warn me. We're literally under safety car conditions. Alright, let's see when the safety car starts to distance itself from the pack, you know. Oh, Gasly, man, what a rough race. What's up, buddy? Welcome back. Fucking Gasly there at the bottom, man. I knocked into him and did damage to his car, and then a few laps later, he got taken out anyways. Rough race. Alright, see, is the safety car coming in this lap? Yes, it is.
Okay, safety car ending this lap. You'll need to use overtake to get full deploy.
Yes, okay.
Let's get ready for this. Safety car goes in, gap builds up behind. Once he disappears, Verstappen has full control over restarting the race. Now we're going to put ourselves on the attack and try and do some damage off the start here. How much longer are you streaming for? Probably going to finish this race, wrap up a little administrative stuff in the menus, and then call it. So 6 or a little before, probably. This guy's back on neutral there. Yeah, I'll let you know. I mean, I'm going to need to eat some food and take the dog for a walk, but depending on how quickly I can do those things or what type of food I get ready, I can probably game for a little while before that. But yeah, I mean, if I eat something that I can eat in game, I don't mind about that at all. Sargent overtaking Norris, pissing me
And oh dear,
off.
that's Max Verstappen.
Oh yeah, we could definitely check out the Underdark just a little bit and see how nasty it gets. The two Red Bulls into each other, you hate to see it. I mean, as a competitor, I love to see it. As a Red Bull fan in real life, hate to see it. Yeah. Just gotta try to keep this position. Losing time to Sargent, which isn't gonna help. We need to stay in DRS to him. What happened? What the fuck just happened? I ain't gonna complain about moving up a spot, but I'm a
not
little
quite sure
curious.
what's happened there.
I'm telling you, man, I could be an announcer. What happened here? Sargent? Oh, man. Right into fucking Russell. red flagged.
Red flag box.
Wow. It's like the first red flag I think I've had in this game.
Drive by Lando Norris.
Red flag the session with only like 2 laps left, so it's over. Which means we got 9th place. Really? Really? Were we not just like here? I might need to rewatch that at some point, but I'm fairly confident that I was a little bit higher than 9th. I will happily take points. But goddamn, bro. What the fuck? Also, Sergeant getting a decent haul of points is not good for us, because that means they're chasing us now. And we need to hold on to P7. It's probably going to come back to bite me in the fucking ass. I didn't develop the skier's car anymore. Switched straight to heavy research. It's crazy, though. I had to pay them bonuses because they both did very well, but still brought in a decent chunk of change for this race. Engineer and driver tension between Alex Albon and their engineer Tom Stallard. Not sure exactly why they're not getting along, but I know that this can have an impact on morale and on-track performance. I thought you should know. See, again, this stuff didn't happen in the last game. Anyone who thinks they didn't improve with this title is honestly crazy. You may want to speak with them both, but the outcome may rely on the communication skills more than anything else. There's a chance they will work this out in time, but I will leave the decision to speak with them. Acknowledge Tom and Alex lose affinity. Alex loses morale. Alex gains aggression. I'm going to intervene. No idea how that's going to play out. F3 came to a close. There's your top 3. A couple parts failed. I'm going to take a look at reinstalling those. And so we have a fresh set of hours that we can divvy up for testing research on next year's car. So I need to do rear wing, front wing, rear wing, side pods, suspension. So I'm going to start with order of importance for me. Side pods. $1.4. And we'll do 20 hours, slightly more than the average. We'll leave it on balanced research. We'll put 3 before. Research, the second most important one for me would be underfloor. Allocate those hours. We'll leave it on a balanced focus. Two engineers on each of these. Rear wing. Front wing next. Balanced with 2 NG. We'll go 3 NGs. And then we'll research the rear wing of the remaining hours and staffing. Balanced 1 NG. Alright, so we got all of our cars researched for next year's in. Alright. Got that replaced. And the suspension placed. Place the car part. Place the car parts. Let's take another look at our development. We have one manufacturing project in for side pods. So if we look at our warehouse, we still have 5 chassis, 5 rear wings, 6 front wings, 4 side pods, which is already getting more made, thank God. Underfloor 6 and suspension 6. So chassis, I'm probably going to want to manufacture another 2. Brush it. Okay. So I think that's basically every single thing that we can do right now. Driver tension, let's see, it seems like it has improved. Ear intervention clearly helped. Morale went up for Albon, his aggression went down in their affinity. Alright, so we saw that through and that actually helped, thank goodness. New regulations, vote. Financial changes, change to cost cap, decrease. I'm going to vote against it. Never want to see a cost cap go down. Alright, side pods were made. I got a race preview email, race weekend in 2 days. Alright, so. Alright, boys and girl. I think that is going to do it for us today. Appreciate y'all hanging. It's a fun stream. We'll be back again tomorrow playing whatever the heck it is I want to play. It could be Diablo, it could be Remnant, it could be Baldur's Gate. Not 100% sure. It's my kind of screw around day without a theme. So I'm just going to play whatever the heck it is I want to play. So yeah, but I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Take care.